Chapter 137. 137 Human-headed spider Mo Shi's dragon will rose to level 2. He was overjoyed, but also a little disappointed. The plague dragon's remaining dragon will was only this much. Otherwise, wouldn't he be able to level up several times after this devouring? But then again, if the draconic will he devoured was too strong, wouldn't his brain explode from the overload? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. After all, there wouldn't be any other Long Yen Shi on Earth. Then, he tried to check the plague dragon's memory. However, after searching through the dragon will he just devoured, he couldn't find the plague dragon's memory at all. It seemed that the plague dragon was very cunning. The moment it was devoured, it actually destroyed its memory. As for why it would destroy its memory when it was about to die, Mo Shi guessed that it might have a big secret in its heart. However, Mo Shi couldn't find out where to start, so he stopped thinking about it. He looked around. There was nothing else here that was worth his attention. He first put away the virtual sentry tower. The reason why the sentry tower didn't alert him before was probably because it could only detect physical dangers. It shouldn't be able to detect telekinesis and other dangers. He raised his head and looked at the 1,000-meter-tall crack. He focused his mind. On his back, a ball of blood-red energy slowly appeared. This blood-red energy was like a blood mist at first, floating slowly without any pattern. However, gradually, the blood mist slowly gathered on his back and formed the shape of a pair of huge wings. This pair of wings was about 6 meters wide. It didn't have a physical body. It was just the outline of a wing formed by the blood-red energy. When he reached out to touch the blood-red wings, his hand went straight through the wings. He couldn't feel any physical body. Energy materialization? Mo Shi was slightly confused. After all, he had power in his body, but no energy. The Titan Dragon modification fluid could modify his cells, but it couldn't make his body produce energy. How could his body suddenly produce energy? The system answered and explained, the plague dragon's dragon will contains a trace of its former energy. Otherwise, its dragon will would have been exhausted. Mo Shi nodded. I see. Then how long can this little bit of energy keep me flying? The system replied. With the host's current flying speed and energy consumption, this energy is enough for the host to fly continuously for 5 years and 7 months. When Mo Shi heard this, he was speechless. Good housework. The remnant energy of the plague dragon after tens of thousands of years was enough for him to fly for more than 5 years. How strong was the plague dragon in the past? Would he be as strong as the Titan dragon after evolving into a Titan dragon? Mo Shi couldn't help but be fascinated by this. At this moment his mind moved. The pair of blood-red wings that were 6 meters wide did not flap. There was only a slight tremor. In the next moment, Mo Shi's figure instantly left the ground. In just half a second, he broke through the sound barrier. Bang! A sonic boom came from behind. After breaking through the sound barrier, his speed increased greatly. In an instant, he rushed out of the crack and soared into the sky. In just 5 seconds, he arrived at an altitude of 5,000 meters. The speed of the blood wings had reached 1,000 meters per second. Although it was not as fast as the dragon shadow step, it was much faster than any human, zombie, or mutant beast on Earth. With a thought, Zhang Xian's wings trembled slightly. Then he returned to the ground. The wings turned into energy and retracted back into his body from his back. Compared to the previous wings, the blood wings had another advantage, which was that he didn't have to take off his clothes. Imagine if there was an urgent matter that needed to be solved. If you said, "Wait, I'll take off my clothes first." Wouldn't that be awkward? At this moment, he returned to the top of Brahma's pure mountain. Mo Shi looked at the broodmother nest that had been destroyed long ago and said, "System, sign in at a special location." The system's voice sounded. Sign in successful. Sign in location, Virus Hive. Sign in reward, Virus Clone X10. In other words, Mo Shi could now condense 10 virus clones at once. The system's rewards were getting more and more generous. After signing in, Mo Shi condensed 10 virus clones. Now, whether it was his dragon sense or great hunter level, they had both greatly improved. These 10 virus clones were all level 1 Long Yen Shi and level 1 Great Hunter. It must be known that when Mo Shi was only level 1 Long Yen Shi and level 1 Great Hunter, there was nothing in the entire Wuxia that could kill him. Now, he had killed that level 3 super mutated zombie. Then, each of the clones here could do whatever they wanted in Wuxia. Not to mention 10 clones. The only thing to worry about was that King Mo sure issued an order to these clones. Search and kill infected creatures in the entire Wuxia area. There was no distance limit for the virus clones. Therefore, no matter where these virus clones went, they would still be controlled by Mo sure. Moreover, when these virus clones killed infected creatures, the evolution points obtained would also be counted to Mo sure. In this way, he could continue to stay in the base. Let these virus clones earn evolution points for him. Of course, he had an important purpose for letting these clones search and kill infected creatures. To find that king. That king still hadn't appeared. Just now, in the consciousness of the mother nest, he only saw a vague outline. He didn't know how strong it was. If it didn't appear, Mo sure wouldn't feel at ease. Therefore, he wanted to use these virus clones to force that king out. After the virus clones left, Mo sure once again formed the blood-red wings. His wings trembled slightly as he flew towards base C10, which was more than 200 kilometers away. He planned to rest here for a day and then return to base C1. Now, he had the 10 virus clones to help him collect evolution points. Then, he would be able to live a peaceful and carefree life in base C1. After returning to base C10, Mo sure stayed in the house of a corpse keeper that was blessed by his dragon's will. Dragons will swept across and covered a radius of 100 kilometers. After Dragons will reached level 2, it could completely detect the situation within a radius of 100 kilometers. On the sentry tower of the base, 2 soldiers were chatting. From yesterday to today, the number of zombies outside seems to have decreased a lot. There are also fewer mutated beasts. It's not that they've decreased a lot, they're all gone. Strange. Weren't those zombies gathering before to launch a general attack on our base? Why are they all gone suddenly? Who knows? In today's world, there are all kinds of mutated beasts, mutated zombies, and even super-mutated zombies. I don't even know if they'll be able to see the sun tomorrow. Sigh, you're right. Office of the Chief of Base C10. The chief looked at the report that the leader of the corpse hunters just sent. He frowned slightly. All the zombies and mutated beasts have disappeared? The leader of the corpse hunters was happy and nodded. Yes, Chief. Since the apocalypse, this is the first time this has happened. The chief pondered for a moment and frowned. Do you think this is the calm before the storm? When the leader of the corpse hunters heard this, the joy on his face suddenly froze. Then he said solemnly, Chief, you mean they're going to launch a general attack? Chapter 138. Now, he had 10 virus clones that helped Mo sure farm evolution points all over the country. Mo sure's pace could slow down and he no longer needed to kill in the wilderness. After returning to base C10, he went to a mechanic's house that he had blessed with telekinesis. Lying on the bed, Mo sure could not help but smile as he looked at the evolution points in his mind. For the next few days, he would need to spend 1 million evolution points to check Indiana. However, the 10 virus doppelgangers gave him more than 10 million evolution points every day. This was really earning money while lying at home. At the same time, the necromancers and necromancers of base C10 were all pleasantly surprised. The zombies and mutated beasts around base C10 seemed to have disappeared overnight. At first, they were worried that this was the last calm before the storm. However, even after a few days, there was still no storm. They sent out a hunting group to investigate the situation near the base. In the end, they discovered that there was not a single zombie or mutated beast within 200 kilometers of the base. When this news spread, the entire base was in jubilation. It must be known that in the past half a year, the mutated beasts and zombies had become stronger and stronger. They wanted to escape base C10, but there was still no news from the scouting teams they sent out. A layer of haze shrouded everyone's heart. It had been a long time since anyone smiled. Now, smiles finally returned to people's faces. Strange, it's as if all the infected creatures disappeared overnight. Could it be that after all these years of praying to Buddha, Buddha has appeared? Bullshit. There must be a reason behind this. I heard from my cousin in the hunting group that when they went out to investigate, they saw a human killing those infected creatures. Going alone to kill the infected creatures? Is this true? It's fine if you don't believe me. My cousin also said that according to their captain, that person's strength has probably reached level 10 hunter. At the same time, in the base chief's office, the third captain of the hunting group had just finished his report to the chief. The chief's face showed a hint of surprise. You're saying that there is a mysterious strong person killing infected creatures alone in the wilderness? The third captain nodded. Yes. Judging from his skills, he's not just a level 10 hunter, but also a level 10 psychokinesis. When the third captain said this, a look of surprise appeared on his face. The bureau chief asked in shock, Hunter and psychokinesis? And they've all reached level 10. Up until now, there had never been a level 10 hunter or psychokinesis in their base. No one had ever been a hunter and psychokinesis at the same time. Not only was this person a hunter and psychokinesis at the same time, both of them had reached level 10. How could such a human exist? This completely overturned their previous understanding. The third captain replied, Chief, we can't believe it either. But that is what we see. That human killed his way into a city all by himself. Any zombie that dares to approach within 1,000 meters of it will explode into a cloud of blood mist. It only took him a little more than an hour to clear all the zombies in the city. The chief of the base looked at the third captain. The third captain had always been trustworthy. Since he said so, it must be the truth. However, everything he said was simply too unbelievable. After a while, the chief spoke again. You didn't see his face clearly? The third captain nodded. He was too far away at that time. We only saw a blurry figure. Later, he seemed to have noticed us, but he didn't come over. After killing those infected creatures, he went into the depths of the wilderness. The chief said in surprise, So, this mysterious person can come and go freely in the wilderness where infected creatures run rampant. The third captain also said in surprise, I think so. To be strong enough to come and go freely in the wilderness, this was almost everyone's dream. However, the reason why the word dream was added to it was because it was simply impossible to realize. But now someone had really achieved it. How could they not be fascinated by this? At the same time, the same thing was happening in the other bases. C3, C4, C5. In the whole of Wuxia, except for C1 and C2, mysterious people began to appear around the other 7 bases. The mysterious people cleared the zombies and infected creatures around their bases. People felt as if they had seen their savior. Since the apocalypse, people had been facing the pressure of death for a long time. Especially in recent years, the speed at which mutated beasts and zombies became stronger had far exceeded that of humans. In other countries, more than 10 bases had been breached. Millions of survivors were infected or died. This made the whole world fall into despair. But now, a mysterious person suddenly appeared, alone, and could run rampant in the wilderness. How could they not be excited? Many people were grateful to the mysterious person. Many people prayed for the mysterious person every day. They hoped that he could live a long life. They hoped that he could kill all the infected creatures. Emosure didn't care about these. He had seen through human nature long ago. Don't think that if you help others, they will be grateful to you for the rest of their lives. Maybe tomorrow, there will be a greater temptation, and they will forget about you. Take a simple example. Your friend will always ask you to borrow money. If you lend him the first 9 times, he will be grateful. But if you need money for the 10th time and don't lend him money, then you will have offended him. Grumbling in your heart is light. If it's serious, they will even say that you are not loyal and not a friend. Thus, Emosure didn't expect humans to be grateful to him when he cleaned up these zombies. After all, he only wanted to obtain more evolution points. On this basis, he could help humans in a big way, allowing human civilization to continue. However, there will always be changes in everything. On this day, Emosure was looking at the evolution points in his mind. Suddenly, he felt a trace of danger approaching. This trace of danger was not approaching him, but one of the virus clones. This clone was currently near Qinshe Hills. Emosure looked around through the virus clone's point of view. Not far behind him, there was a green-faced zombie figurine that was staring at the virus clone. Emosure was suspicious. Blood demon eye opened. The attributes of the green-faced zombie figurine immediately appeared in his mind. Species, zombie figurine. Level 10 strong mutation. Emosure frowned. Zombie figurine? Zombies really exist in this world? The system's explanation came frowny face. The so-called zombies are actually people infected with another type of virus. Emoshir nodded. This made sense. But there was one point. Even if this was a zombie figurine, it was only a level 10 strong mutation zombie. It should not be a threat to his clone. Why did he still feel a sense of danger? Chapter 139. This green-faced zombie terracotta was only a level 10 mutated zombie. It was impossible for Emoshir to feel threatened by it. While he was still in doubt, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him without any warning. The long sword in his hand instantly drew a ray of light. In the next moment, the virus clone was split into two from the middle. It fell to the two sides. It was also at this moment that Emoshir saw the figure clearly. A black dragon robe. A crown on his head. A bronze sword in his hand. Although his face was strangely black, just like the green-faced zombie terracotta. But this face's eyebrows, nose, eyes, and whiskers were almost identical to the restored Qin Shi Huang that he saw in his previous life. Qin Shi Huang. Emoshir couldn't help but ask doubtfully. Qin Shi Huang was resurrected. And he was resurrected as a zombie. The king that he heard from the zombies for a long time was Qin Shi Huang. Thinking about the missing terracotta warriors in the museum, Emoshir made a rough guess. He had read some history books before. The book said that Qin Shi Huang was in pursuit of immortality and sent the necromancer Su Fu overseas to search for the elixir of immortality. Su Fu went and never returned. Could it be that Su Fu had already returned? And the method of immortality he sought was to be infected with the zombie virus and live forever through the zombie method? When Qin Shi Huang ordered the craftsman to create terracotta warriors, he was actually creating zombie terracotta warriors. In the end, even Qin Shi Huang himself was made into a zombie terracotta warrior. Although Emoshir felt that this speculation was ridiculous. But looking at all aspects, this was the only reasonable explanation. It seemed that Qin Shi Huang should be the king that the zombies were talking about. The zombie virus in his body and the virus X in the zombies were two completely different viruses. Thus, even from the consciousness of the mother nest, he couldn't get much information about Qin Shi Huang. Unfortunately, the zombie terracotta warrior appeared too quickly and he didn't have time to see its level. Emoshir asked in his mind, "System, is the level system of zombies the same as zombies?" The system replied, "Frowny face zombies are also divided into normal zombies, mutated zombies, strong mutated zombies, and super mutated zombies." Emoshir pondered for a moment, and a thought flashed through his mind. He gave the order to the other 9 virus clones. All avatars, hurry to Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Check the level of Qin Shi Huang's zombies. In the next moment, all the clones rushed to Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Finding out the level of Qin Shi Huang's zombie was the most important thing at the moment. Just as Emoshir sent those virus clones to rush to Emperor Qin's mausoleum, something happened at base C10 again. It rained continuously for a few days. That morning, the dark clouds in the sky finally dispersed. Emoshir finished his breakfast and walked out of the room. Seeing that there was no one around, he activated the blood demon's eye. He scanned his surroundings. His brows furrowed slightly as he took a look. He had already cleaned up the infected creatures around base C10. However, when he looked around with his blood demon eyes, he realized that the fog around the base was filled with corpse energy. The corpse chi blotted out the sky, and it was quickly spreading toward the base. Emoshir probed with his draconic will. After probing, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. He saw that in the fog around the base, there were thousands of mutated spiders running quickly. However, under the observation of his blood demon eyes, he realized that the level of these mutated spiders wasn't too high. They were all mutated beasts below level 10. However, there were too many of them. After a rough scan, he estimated that there were about 1 million of them. There were more than 1 million of them, and all of them were mutated spiders around level 5. Emoshir was very puzzled. Where did so many mutated spiders come from? However, based on the principle of not thinking about it if he couldn't figure it out, he didn't dwell on this matter. Since they were here to give him evolution points. Immediately, he moved his telekinesis and ordered the 6 people in the base who had been activated by him to rush to the base's surrounding walls. After he returned from Brahma's Pure Mountain, His draconic will had reached level 2. Therefore, he strengthened the telekinesis of these 6 people again. Their telekinesis had now reached level 8. It should be known that previously in base C10, the strongest psychokinesis was only level 6. The psychokinesis strengthened by Mo Sure was already an invincible existence in the entire base. At this time, under the third wall of the base, a group of soldiers was chatting. What AF * King Fog? If mutated beasts or zombies suddenly attack at this time, won't we be caught off guard? Another soldier glared at him. The mysterious elite has already cleaned up all the infected creatures within 100 kilometers of the base. Where would the zombies and mutated beasts come from? The third soldier also said, don't jinx it again. The mysterious elite has helped us clean up the infected creatures. Now, guarding the base has become the safest and most leisurely job. We should enjoy it. Just as he said this, suddenly, a black shadow jumped down from above the wall. It directly pounced on the face of the soldier who spoke. The soldier immediately cursed, F * CK. He quickly wanted to push the thing on his face away. However, it was too late. One of the sharp needle-like legs of that thing had already pierced his throat. It was only now that everyone saw the thing clearly. They saw that it was a mutated spider the size of a human head. Originally, mutated spiders weren't too scary. They had killed many of them when they were guarding the base. However, this mutated spider made all of their hair stand on end. Because the body of this mutated spider was actually a human head. 8 long, slender, and sharp legs grew out of its head. Just one look at this strange scene was enough to send chills down one's spine and make one's scalp numb. When the surrounding soldiers saw this scene, they quickly raised their guns and fired at the mutated spider. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The mutated spider was shot until blood splattered everywhere. Even so, it still used its slender legs to stab a soldier's leg. That was why it was killed. The group of soldiers looked at each other, their hearts trembling. Because their 2 companions who were stabbed to death and injured were already showing signs of zombification. Their skin began to turn greenish-black. Their eyeballs began to turn white. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. When these soldiers' attention was on their companions who were about to turn into zombies, they heard a rustling sound coming from above the wall. They looked up. With one look, everyone suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. They saw a row of mutated spiders on top of the wall. Each of the mutated spiders had a human head and 8 legs. Chapter 140. The entire C10 base was shrouded in thick fog. Under the cover of the thick fog, millions of human-headed spiders surrounded the entire base. In the base, the sound of alarms suddenly rang out. All the soldiers, zombie hunters, and zombie hunters headed toward the wall. They tried to stop these human-headed spiders. But there were too many human-headed spiders. In comparison, the tens of thousands of people in the zombie hunters group were insignificant. Even if their psychokinesis could kill a large number of human-headed spiders. Even their hunters' genetic martial arts could kill a large number of human-headed spiders. But these human-headed spiders came from all directions. The zombie hunters group didn't have enough manpower. And the ordinary soldiers' damage to the human-headed spiders was extremely limited. So, there were constantly human-headed spiders that slipped through the net and crawled into the base. In the base, they began to massacre civilians. In the repair shop, 4 human-headed spiders crawled in and injured more than 10 people. Those 10 people quickly turned into zombies. The entire repair shop was in chaos. All the workers fled as if they had gone crazy. However, there was a worker who went against the flow. He went towards the mutated zombies with human-headed spiders. A person beside him pulled that person and shouted, "Old he run!" However, Old he didn't run. Instead, he shook off that person's hand. Then, he used his level 8 psychokinesis. In the repair shop, all the wrenches, screwdrivers, iron wires. They converged into a giant steel python. It flew towards the zombies and human-headed spiders. Soon, the giant python opened its mouth and swallowed the zombies and human-headed spiders. Crack, crack. An ear-piercing sound came from the python's stomach. Then, blood and flesh splattered out of the giant python's stomach. The steel python followed the repairman and walked out of the repair area. When it saw the zombies and human-headed spiders, it swallowed them in big mouths. When the other mechanics saw this scene, They were all extremely shocked. Old he is. Psychokinesis. It seems to be even stronger than the other psychokinesis in the base. F***CK. This old he hit it really well. At the edge of the wall. A psychokinesis from the zombie hunters group was using throwing knives to surround the human-headed spider. However, there were simply too many human-headed spiders. The other psychokinesis patients were scattered throughout the base. With his psychokinesis, there was no way he could block it. He watched as the human-headed spiders escaped his flying daggers and rushed into the base. A sense of helplessness rose in his heart. At this moment, he saw a dirty child of about 10 years old walking towards him. He hurriedly shouted, "Little brat, run! Find a place to hide." However, not only did the little ghost not run away, but it also charged towards the human-headed spider. When the dozens of human-headed spiders saw the boy, they immediately let out a zh sound and pounced on the boy. However, at this moment, a shocking scene occurred. All of the human-headed spiders within an 800-meter radius of the boy let out a loud bang at the same time. It exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Then, the dozens of zombies that were pouncing on the boy also exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Psychokinesis. The psychokinesis, who was already in despair, was even more shocked. This brat was actually a psychokinesis. It was rare for a child to be a psychokinesis. However, this brat's telekinesis was clearly much stronger than his. Based on the range of his telekinesis, he was actually a level 8 psychokinesis. This was simply too unbelievable. One had to know that the strongest person in the base was only a level 6 psychokinesis. A 10-year-old child was actually a level 8 psychokinesis? Even if he started training in his father's body when he was still a tadpole, it was impossible for him to rise so quickly. At the same time, similar scenes were playing out in 4 other places in the base. Mo Sure did not participate. With the addition of these 6 level 8 psychokinesis, it was not a problem to defend the base. For these newly promoted level 8 psychokinesis, this was also a chance to train. Moreover, these 6 level 8 psychokinesis were under the control of their leader's will. The evolution points they obtained from killing the infected creatures were also counted on their own heads. Even if these level 8 psychokinesis only killed half of the 1 million human-headed spiders, they would still obtain more than 200 million evolution points. As for Mo Sure, his attention was focused on a place 50 kilometers away. Although the sky was covered in fog, the visibility for normal people was less than 10 meters. However, Mo Sure's blood demon eyes could see through the fog and look towards the southeast 50 kilometers away. That was the direction of Tianmen Mountain. At this time, Tianmen Mountain was filled with corpse energy. It almost covered the entire Tianmen Mountain. A few days ago, when Mo Sure was cleaning up the infected creatures, he also cleaned up Tianmen Mountain. Logically speaking, it was impossible for such a large amount of corpse energy to gather here in such a short time. There must be something strange. He used his draconic sense to investigate. Then, he saw a hair-raising scene. On Tianmen Mountain, there was a huge natural karst cave. It was like a gate to the heavens embedded in the canopy of the sky. In front of Tianmen Mountain, there was a stairway to heaven with 999 steps. At this time, the entire Tianmen Mountain was woven with a huge blood-red spider web. In the middle of the spider web, there was a huge human-headed spider. This human-headed spider's head was more than 30 meters long. Each of its legs was more than 40 meters long. Just by relying on its body alone, it almost completely blocked the huge heavenly gate cave. With the help of the blood demon's eyes, Mo Sure could clearly see its level. A level 1 mutated beast. This was the first time in his life that he saw a mutated beast. At this time, hundreds of holes with a diameter of 5 meters appeared on the 999 steps in front of the heavenly gate cave. Every hole was bottomless. Above the holes, there was an endless stream of human-headed spiders crawling out. These human-headed spiders formed a long line of human-headed spiders and headed towards base C10. When Mo Sure saw this scene, he thought to himself, so that's how it is. The last time he passed by here, these spiders should still be hiding underground. At this moment, his draconic sense trembled slightly. Bang! Almost at the same time, all the human-headed spiders on the stairway to heaven and the human-headed spiders heading towards base C10 exploded into a cloud of blood mist. This blood mist extended from the stairway to heaven for 50 kilometers and arrived at the wall of base C10. It formed a 50-kilometer-long blood mist belt. With this, Mo Shi's evolution points increased by more than 10 million. On the blood-red spider web on Tianmen Mountain, when the human-headed Spider King saw this, it immediately opened its huge mouth in grief and indignation. It let out a heart-wrenching cry. Squeak, 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 squeak. Chapter 141. Mo Shi's dragons will shook slightly, and thousands of human-headed spiders exploded. In the blood-red spider web above Tianmen Cave, the human-headed Spider King suddenly let out a sorrowful cry. Squeak, 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 squeak. However, in the next moment, it was as if a huge invisible meteorite had smashed into Tianmen Cave. Rumble. The entire Tianmen Cave collapsed. The human-headed Spider King's reaction was also very fast. The moment Tianmen Cave collapsed, it jumped down from the blood-red spider web. It burrowed into a crack in the belly of Tianmen Mountain. However, this was just the beginning. Boom 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 boom. 9 dragons will meteorites with a diameter of 100 meters smashed into Tianmen Mountain at almost the same time. After dragons will advance to level 2, Mo Shi could condense 10 dragons will meteorites at the same time. 9 dragons will meteorites smashed down at the same time. A huge shockwave spread out brazenly. Although dragons will had no heat, when the mountain was crushed by the huge pressure, it still exploded with a huge amount of energy. The shockwave uprooted all the trees within a radius of more than 10 kilometers. When the shockwave dissipated, the 2-square-kilometer mountaintop had long disappeared. The entire Tianmen Mountain had been blasted into a pile of ruins. As for the human-headed Spider King, it had long been blasted into pieces. The power of the dragons will meteorites was actually so terrifying. The most terrifying thing was that Mo Shi had released the dragons will meteorites from 50 kilometers away. 50 kilometers, according to ancient terms, was 100 miles. Killing the enemy's head from 100 miles away. What kind of terrifying power was this? Of course, the greater the power, the greater the consumption. At this moment, Mo Shi felt that his dragons will had almost been consumed by more than half. He took out a bottle of dragons will recovery liquid from his personal storage and drank it. After about 5 minutes, the consumed dragons will had been recovered by more than half. He looked up in the direction of Tianmen Mountain again. He saw that the corpse aura there was much fainter than before. However, there was still a lot of corpse aura. Mo Shi knew that this was because there were still many human-headed spiders in the spider cave. He immediately tapped his feet lightly. Only 100-meter-tall dragon's shadow was left on the spot. He had disappeared on the spot. If it wasn't for the thick fog, this dragon's shadow would definitely shock everyone in the base. In front of the ruins of Tianmen Mountain, Mo Shi's figure instantly appeared. He looked at the spider caves on the stairway to heaven. Although there were no more human-headed spiders climbing up, there should still be a lot of them inside. Mo Shi's dragon will entered the spider cave. The spider cave was about 2 to 3 kilometers below the ground. There were hundreds and thousands of tunnels below, extending in all directions. In these tunnels, there were also thousands of human-headed spiders. Mo Shi frowned. Where did this passageway lead to? How many human-headed spiders were there? A moment later, he shook his head and decided not to dwell on it any longer. He used his dragon sense to detonate all the human-headed spiders. In an instant, he gained another 50 million evolution points. After that, he used the dragon will meteorite to collapse the cave entrance. Only then did he speak in his mind. System, sign in. The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in location, spider's lair. Sign in reward, blood spider silk. This was a skill. Mo Shi looked at the skill description in his mind. Crimson spider silk. Activates the virus in the body to shoot out crimson spider silk. The spider silk can be hard or soft. When it is hard, it can pierce through metal and stone. When it is soft, it can stick to all things. The crimson spider silk is extremely tough. Those below mutated zombies cannot cut through the crimson spider silk. When Mo Shi saw this, his mind moved slightly. A crimson spider silk as thick as a finger instantly condensed from his body and shot out along his fingertip. Ding with a soft sound, It was nailed into a huge rock. It could pierce through metal and stone. As expected. Moreover, Emo could also feel that this crimson spider silk seemed to be able to change into many shapes while being flexible. It had endless uses. However, this had to be slowly studied in the future. He put away the crimson spider silk. On his back, the crimson wings spread out. His wings flapped slightly, and his body instantly rose into the air. Bang! A sonic boom came from behind him. His speed instantly increased greatly. He flew forward at a speed of 1,000 meters per second. However, he did not return to base C10. Instead, he went to base C1. The matter here had been resolved. He also left 6 level 8 psychokinesis here. It was enough to deal with attacks below mutated zombies. Next, he would return to base C1. He would leave behind a large number of level 8 psychokinesis here. This way, even if he left base C1 in the future, he would not have to worry about infected creatures attacking the base. At the same time, he would leave behind a large number of level 8 psychokinesis. Not only would he leave behind a large number of spies, but the evolution points of the infected creatures they killed would also be credited to him. It was definitely a profitable business with little capital. More than half an hour after Emo left Tianmen Mountain, all the human-headed spiders in base C10 had been cleaned up. The sun in the sky gradually showed its face. The thick fog was slowly dispelled. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the 6th level 8 psychokinesis. These 6 people were just ordinary people in the past. Some did dirty and tiring work every day. Some of them had become second nature to sneak around. There was also a child who was only in his teens. Who would have thought that when the base was in danger, they were the ones who saved the base. Moreover, the strength of these 6 people was actually stronger than anyone in the base. Amidst the shock, someone finally spoke. Old he, I really didn't expect you to hide so well. Little brat, little hero, you are actually a psychokinesis. Amidst everyone's shock and confusion, the 6 people were invited to the chief's office. The chief asked someone to pour a glass of water for the 6 of them. He said, I should thank you on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people in the base. Everyone was a little uneasy. After all, they were just ordinary people in the past. Suddenly facing the chief of the base, they were really at a loss. On the other hand, the child wiped his snot with his sleeve and said, Chief, if you really want to thank me, give me steamed buns. I want a lot of steamed buns. The chief laughed and said, Of course, you have contributed greatly to the base. Naturally, I will let you eat until you are full. He immediately ordered someone to bring food. Then he asked everyone, I just don't understand one thing. The 6 of you are all level 8 psychokinesis. This is really puzzling. Can you explain? Speaking of this, the chief seemed to be afraid that the 6 people would misunderstand. He said, Of course, if this involves secrets, pretend that I didn't ask. The 6 people looked at each other. The mysterious powerhouse had only activated their psychokinesis. But before he left, he didn't say whether they could reveal his information to others. What if they told him and the mysterious powerhouse was unhappy? But what if they didn't tell him and the mysterious powerhouse was unhappy? Their leaders will allow them to contact the mysterious powerhouse. But the mysterious powerhouse had said that they shouldn't bother him if it wasn't important. This should be considered an unimportant matter. But who knew? What if this was something important to the mysterious powerhouse? Everyone couldn't make up their minds. Chapter 142. The others couldn't make up their minds. The kid rubbed his nose and said casually, We can reach level 8 psychokinesis at the same time because of the mysterious powerhouse. The base chief heard this and nodded. I see. The kid shook his head and said, But as for the other information about the mysterious powerhouse, what do you say? Oh right, no comment. The other 5 nodded. They agreed with the kid. The base chief saw this and hurriedly said, Of course, of course. Since it's about the mysterious powerhouse, don't say anything that's not convenient for you to say. I won't ask any more. Then he ordered the person next to him, Tell everyone that the mysterious powerhouse is the main contributor to the rescue of the base today. The 6 powerful psychokinesis are also related to the mysterious powerhouse. As for the other things, don't ask too much. If the mysterious powerhouse is unhappy, then you'll be the sinner of the entire base. At noon that day, Mo Sure returned to the base. The soldiers guarding the base saw Mo Sure return and felt a lot more at ease. They were always on tenterhooks when Mo Sure wasn't around. A soldier guarding the base mustered up the courage to greet Mo Sure. "Mr. Mo, you're back." The rest of the soldiers saw this and felt a chill in their hearts. The captain next to him glared at the soldier. They all knew that the mysterious powerhouse didn't like to be disturbed. This guy was courting death. However, out of everyone's expectations, Mo Sure nodded at the soldier. Then he leisurely walked in the direction of the corpse farm. After Mo Sure's back was out of sight, the captain let out a long sigh of relief. He glared at the soldier again. "Iron slag, you're courting death." The other soldiers also felt that their palms were sweaty. But the soldier shook his head and said, "Who said he's terrifying? I think he's very easygoing." After he said this, the others also reacted. "It's very surprising. He's not as scary as the rumors say." The captain also nodded. "The rumors are a bit exaggerated." But then he warned everyone, "But even so, don't be so arrogant and go to the corpses. The chief has given the order that if we disturb Mr. Mo, we will be punished by military law." Everyone's expression froze. "Yes, Captain," he hastily replied. When Mo Sure returned to the corpse farm, Happy and Old Lee were naturally happy. Old Lee chuckled and said, "Now that you're back, you won't be leaving anytime soon, right?" Mo Sure nodded. "Yes, I plan to stay for a while longer." The 9 virus avatars had gone to scout for information, but there had been no reply yet. Mo Sure did not plan to leave the base until he figured out the strength of the king. In any case, he had more than 200 million evolution points to sign Indiana. It was enough for him to sign in for half a year. As for the draconic ruins in the new province, he planned to take a look at it after he reached level 4. In the next 3 months, apart from signing in every day, Mo Sure activated the psychokinesis of ordinary people. Of the Dragon Will clones he sent, 7 of them were killed before they could even see the strength of the Qin First Emperor zombie. Only the last 2 were prepared in advance and were able to see the strength of the Qin First Emperor zombie. Level 8 Super Mutated Zombie, he finally figured out the strength of the Qin First Emperor zombie. The stone in Mo Sure's heart finally fell to the ground. He was not afraid of the level 8 Super Mutated Zombie. He had the Blood Dragon armor, which could withstand any attack on Earth. In addition to the Titan Dragon chest armor, nothing on Earth could break it. With these 2 layers of invincible defense and the small success of Dragon Shadow Step, even if he could not defeat the Qin First Emperor zombie, he could not do anything to him. The only thing he had to worry about was that if the Qin First Emperor zombie could not kill him, he would become angry out of humiliation and kill all the humans. Mo Sure would not be able to do anything about it. Thus, in the past 3 months, Mo Sure continued to sign in and increase his strength. On the other hand, he continued to activate the civilians in the base, causing them to become psychokinesis. With his current Dragon Will, he could activate the Dragon Will of 3 people at the same time in a day. In the past 3 months, there were more than 270 level 8 psychokinesis in base C1. However, these 270 level 8 psychokinesis had not been exposed yet. They were just living in the base as ordinary people. If there was a need one day, Mo Sure would give the order, and more than 270 psychokinesis would appear at the same time. What a spectacular scene that would be. Mo Sure also activated Yang Kang's daughter, Yang Xiaofan, to become a level 8 psychokinesis. At the same time, he also used his psychic blessing on Old Lee and Happy. As usual, Happy did not react. Mo Sure had already expected this. But what surprised him was that Old Lee did not react to his psychic blessing. Mo Sure wondered if it was because of Old Lee's old age. Previously, he had only blessed humans under the age of 60. Old Lee was almost 70 years old now. The next day, Mo Sure found another old man in his 70s and used his psychic blessing on him. As a result, the old man in his 70s was also successfully activated and became a level 8 psychokinesis. This made Mo Sure even more puzzled. One was Happy, and the other was Old Lee. The 2 people closest to him could not be activated into psychokinesis. What the hell was going on? Mo Sure could not figure it out, so he did not think too much about it. On this day, he felt the surging power in his body. He knew that he was about to break through. After midnight that night, Mo Sure signed in again and obtained 100 drops of modification liquid. After taking more than 30 drops, his body began to heat up. In just 5 minutes, the surging power in his body seemed to be about to overflow. He couldn't help but want to find something to test his powerful strength. But in the end, he resisted. With his current strength, if he dared to go outside and try it, he would scare people to death. He took a few deep breaths and looked at his attributes in his mind. Name, Mo Shi. Level 4 Great Hunter, Level 2 Long Yen Shi. Evolution Path, Titan Dragon. Phew. Mo Shi let out a long breath. He was finally a Level 4 Great Hunter. He was confident that with his current strength, it should not be a problem for him to challenge a Level 8 super mutated zombie. At this point, he finally felt a little more at ease. One afternoon, half a month after Mo Shi's breakthrough, Mo Shi's eyes lit up. Under the grape trellis in the corpse farm, Old Li called Mo Shi and Happy over. The three of them sat around the stone table. Mo Shi joked, "Old Li, what's the matter? Why are you making it so grand? It's like a leader having a meeting." Old Li laughed twice and looked at Mo Shi and Happy with gratification. Then he said, "Little Mo Happy. I, Old Li, have no children in my life. I have always treated the two of you as my children. Before I close my eyes, I hope to see the two of you together. Then I can close my eyes when I die. Little Mo, you're not young anymore. Happy is 26 years old, right? Today the two of you give me a straightforward answer. Can you two succeed?" Chapter 143. Under the grape trellis of the corpse farm. The warm sunlight caressed the faces of Mo Shi and the other two. Old Li asked, "Give me a straight answer. Can you guys do it or not?" Mo Shi turned to look at Happy. He saw that Happy was also looking at him. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and nervousness. Her appearance was lovable and made one's heart ache. Mo Shi couldn't help but laugh. He rubbed her head and turned to look at Old Li. "Uncle Li, don't worry. I will treat Happy well for the rest of my life." There were no flowery words, no touching vows of eternal love. There were only a few simple words. How many vows of eternal love made it to the end? Weren't those couples who truly spent their lives simple and unadorned? When Happy heard Mo Shi's words, the tears in her eyes were like sparkling diamonds under the sunlight. Ever since she came to the corpse farm, Mo Shi had taken care of her like a sister. At that time, she had already secretly given her heart to him. But she had always felt inferior. She was just a mute girl. Would Brother Mo despise her? Later, when she knew that Mo Shi had become a mysterious expert, she felt even more inferior. One was a powerful and mysterious expert, and the other was just a mute girl who couldn't even speak. The two of them were from two completely different worlds. Although Brother Mo still treated her as well as before, she still felt a little uneasy. Now that she finally got Brother Mo's answer, how could she not cry? Old Li looked at Happy again. Happy only hated that she couldn't speak at this time. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak. Her gaze was like the sunlight reflected by the waves, constantly jumping. She nodded repeatedly. But then she felt a little uneasy. Her hands trembled slightly as she gestured with her hand. "I'm afraid that I'll be a burden to Brother Mo." Shi laughed and rubbed Happy's head again. He messed up her neatly combed hair. He said, "Silly girl, your Brother Mo is very capable. How can you be a burden to me?" Seeing this, Old Li was relieved. He couldn't help but laugh. Good. Fortunately, there's no wine. If there was wine, the two of us would drink to our heart's content." Mo Shi laughed and said, "You just want to find an excuse to drink. Don't you find it troublesome?" As he spoke, he returned to his room and took out 2 bottles of white wine. Old Li laughed again. "You brat. You even secretly hid such a treasure." That afternoon, the two of them had a hearty drink. Old Li said drunkenly, "From the looks of it, are you planning to leave the base again in the next few days?" Mo Shi nodded. "Yes, I do plan to go out." Li's tongue was a little stiff. "You have to be more careful and accompany Happy." The next morning, even after Mo Shi finished helping Happy, Old Li still did not come out. He probed with his draconic will, and his expression changed. From his probing, Old Li was no longer breathing. The cells in his body had long lost their activity. Emo hurried to Old Lee's house. Happy knew that something had happened, so he followed him. After a moment, Emo sighed heavily and shook his head. Old Lee was gone. He died without any illness. He was 68 years old. Happy's tears rolled down like pearls from a broken necklace. She seemed to have lost her strength. Emo hugged Happy and let her lean on his shoulder. Only then did he know why Old Lee asked him and Happy to make a statement and settle the matter yesterday. Old Lee had a premonition that his time was up. Funerals in the apocalypse were very simple. They were supposed to be cremated. But Old Lee once said that if he died one day, he hoped to be buried. Emo then chose a place for himself. He found someone to dig a hole and buried Old Lee. Only Emo and Happy attended the funeral. They did not wear mourning clothes. The two of them stood silently in front of Old Lee's grave for a long time. The funeral was completed. Happy's eyes were red and swollen. He gestured with his hand. "Do you want to set up a tombstone for Uncle Lee?" Emo looked at the new grave in front of him and just shook his head. Happy had always been like Emo. Since Emo did not intend to set up a tombstone for Uncle Lee, she gave up. 7 days after Old Lee was buried, Old Lee was buried. Emo said goodbye to Happy. He had to go to Xian province and sign in at the Dragon Ruins. With his current speed, it would take at most 3 to 5 days to go back and forth, including the delay in the middle. On the morning of the second day after he left, in the northwest of Base C1, the ground near the dam suddenly bulged quickly. It was as if something was trying to break free from the ground. A moment later, the ground quickly cracked open. A human-headed spider quickly jumped out. Then, the second, the third, the fourth. Countless human-headed spiders kept jumping out. At the same time, hundreds of holes appeared on the ground around the dam. Countless human-headed spiders crawled out of each hole. On the ground on the other side of the dam, there were also hundreds of holes. A zombie crawled out of each hole. Moreover, these zombies were obviously not ordinary zombies. Their grayish-white eyes revealed a gaze that only intelligent creatures would have. In the end, thousands of zombies gathered into a torrent and headed toward Base C1. Thousands of human-headed spiders also gathered into a red stream and headed toward Base C1. Half an hour later, on the wall of Base C1, some soldiers discovered these zombies and human-headed spiders. In the base, the alarm sounded. All the members of the hunter group rushed to the wall. Looking at the zombies and human-headed spiders surging over, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Do Xiaodo's expression was extremely solemn. She said to Guo Jutao next to her, "Leader, the strength of these zombies should have reached the strength of level 8 and above. There are many level 10 strong mutated zombies. There are even a few that have reached the level of super mutated zombies." Guo Jutao's expression was also more solemn than ever. "Mr. Mo is not here. Everyone, cheer up." The pressure in his heart was greater than ever. Not to mention those blood-red human-headed spiders. Just the number of zombies alone was probably more than 100,000. Although the number was much less than when millions of zombies besieged the city. Almost all of them were level 8 strong mutated zombies and above. There were even a few super mutated zombies. With the current strength in the base, it was impossible to defend. If there was a glimmer of hope at this time, it could only be Mr. Mo. But someone saw that Mr. Mo had left the base 2 days ago. Could it be that today was the real end of Base C1? At the same time, on the sentry tower on the east side of the base, 2 figures were overlooking the entire base. One of them was a soldier who was originally on the sentry tower. But at this time, his gaze was respectfully looking at another person. This other person was none other than Mo. At this time, the color of Mo's skin had merged with the sentry tower. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to tell. Chapter 144. It turned out that the one that left Base C1 2 days ago was Mo's doppelganger. His real body had been hiding in Base C1 all this time. He knew that as soon as he left Base C1, something big would happen. Right now, he wasn't looking at the hundreds of thousands of mutated zombies outside the city, nor did he care about the millions of human-headed spiders. His eyes were fixed on a certain spot in the base. At the same time, in the wilderness outside the base, the mutated zombies had stopped 1 kilometer away from the city wall. At such a close distance, if they really wanted to charge, it would only take a dozen seconds for them to reach the city wall. The human-headed spiders spread out in all directions. They planned to surround the entire base. At the same time, Emoshur's draconic will moved. He had already given orders to the 270 level 8 psychokinesis zombies in the base. Those level 8 psychokinesis zombies all headed toward the northwest city wall. Below the city wall, the soldiers saw that these ordinary people were actually going up the city wall. They all shouted, "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear the alarm? At this time you should be hiding at home. Running all the way here. Do you want to die faster?" However, these ordinary people in their eyes didn't care about them at all. Instead, they slowly floated up and floated toward the city wall. Seeing this, the soldiers all widened their eyes. This is psychokinesis? So many psychokinesis. How is this possible? How can Aunt Zhang have psychokinesis? Damn it, Uncle Wang has psychokinesis too. The most shocked of them all was a soldier in his 40s. He watched helplessly as his son walked past him. He wanted to struggle and pull his son back, but he realized that he couldn't move at all. "Little Tian, you have psychokinesis too." He said something that even he thought was ridiculous. In their family, neither he nor his son had ever become a hunter or a telekinesis master. This had always been the family's regret. Now that his son was 16 years old, he was already working as an assistant for the chefs in the base's cafeteria. If his son had psychokinesis, how could he work as an assistant in the kitchen? However, at the next moment, his son had already levitated into the air. Following Auntie Zhang, Uncle Wang, and the others, they flew towards the city wall. The soldier was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. His son really had psychokinesis. The hunters on the city wall looked like they had seen a ghost when they saw the 300 people floating in the air. Ever since the incident with Lu Nian, the base had suffered a huge blow. Psychokinesis was almost completely wiped out. How could they not be shocked by the sudden appearance of so many telekinesis masters? What was even more inconceivable was that Auntie Zhang, who was sweeping the floor, and Uncle Wang, who was in the boiler room, were both suffering from psychokinesis. And from the looks of it, his telekinesis level wasn't low either. He estimated that it was level 6 or 7, or even level 7 or 8. This had completely overturned everyone's understanding. At the same time, 1 kilometer away from the city wall, those zombies seemed to be impatient. Those super mutant zombies roared one after another. All 100,000 mutated zombies immediately rushed towards the city wall. Behind them, the smoke was like a giant dragon, slowly rising into the air. Emoshur's dragons will naturally also detected the situation outside the city wall. However, he didn't make a move. The attacks of these super mutant zombies were a good opportunity for those level 8 psychokinesis to train. As long as those super mutant zombies didn't make a move, there was no need to worry. His attention was still fixed on a certain spot in the base. At the same time, the 100,000 mutant zombies had already rushed to 500 meters away from the city wall. It was also at this moment that the 270 or so level 8 psychokinesis attacked at the same time. They tore off their jackets. Almost everyone had dozens of black throwing knives on the inside of their jackets. Every knife was actually a bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knife. Ordinary throwing knives were already very difficult to deal with the super mutant zombies. Only the bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knife could easily penetrate the body of the super mutant zombies. With the current strength of Emoshur's dragon's will, it wasn't very useful for him to use the bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knife. Therefore, he distributed the knives to the psychokinesis. At the same time, he spent more than 10 days to receive 1,000 bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knives every time he checked in. Only then did he give each of them 60 bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knives. More than 270 level 8 psychokinesis and more than 16,000 bloodthirsty corpse-slaying knives. Like a black wave, they flew towards the super mutant zombies. Chi. In the first wave of attack, more than 200 super mutant zombies fell to the ground. The super mutant zombies behind were all shocked. They thought that these were just ordinary throwing knives. They never thought that these throwing knives would be so sharp. Moreover, they had an extremely strong corrosive effect on zombies. Originally, no matter how big the wounds of the super mutant zombies were, as long as their heads weren't blown up, they could quickly recover. However, after being hit by these black throwing knives, these super mutant zombies couldn't recover at all. They were constantly corroded and eventually turned into smelly, broken corpses. When the rest of the super mutant zombies saw this, they all slowed down. When the second wave of over 100 super mutant zombies fell again, these super mutant zombies finally stopped. They were pacing back and forth 800 meters away from the base's city wall. In their eyes, this 800 meters was a hurdle. Taking one step forward meant death. When the super mutant zombies saw this, they all roared. Roar, roar. The huge roar of the zombies spread over a radius of tens of kilometers. They all raised their right hands. They lowered their bodies. In the next moment, the 6 super mutant zombies took off like catapults. They quickly ran towards the city wall. Their speed was so fast that even the flying knives controlled by the level 8 psychokinesis couldn't hurt them at all. On the city wall, when the hunter group saw this, they all felt a sense of despair. Even with so many level 8 psychokinesis, they couldn't stop these super mutant zombies. So what if they had more people in the hunter group? Guo Jutao knew that today was the end. But as a member of the hunter group, even if he died, he had to fight to the death. He opened his eyes wide and used almost all of his strength to let out a sharp roar. Hunter group attack. The hunter group consisted of psychokinesis and level 1 hunters. They knew that they couldn't survive today, so they all had the will to die. Fight to the death. One by one, they jumped off the city wall and faced the 6 super mutant zombies. The 6 super mutant zombies had a trace of disdain in their eyes. They roared out. Lowly human, poor reptile, die. Their sharp claws under the sun were cold and glaring. Their eyes seemed to want to devour people. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 145. The 6 super mutant zombies rushed towards the thousands of people in the hunting group with a violent force. There was a trace of disdain in their eyes. Even if there were tens of thousands of people in the hunter group, it was not worth mentioning in front of the 6 super mutant zombies. The huge gap in strength could not be made up by such a small number of people. However, just as they were about to rush into the crowd, the ground under their feet suddenly cracked. From the cracks, sanguisurincus as thick as an arm jumped out. These sanguisurincus, like snakes, almost instantly entangled the 6 super mutant zombies. The super mutant zombies were all extremely powerful. But at this time, being entangled by these sanguisurincus, they wanted to struggle, but they could not break free at all. Then, on these sanguisurincus, countless sharp thorns of more than 1 foot long suddenly popped out. Puff 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 puff. All pierced into the bodies of these super mutant zombies. At this time, the 6 super mutant zombies looked like 6 pieces of barbecued meat pierced through by countless iron skewers. At this point, the 6 super mutant zombies were all killed. The next moment, all the sanguisurincus retracted back to the ground and disappeared. The people in the hunter group were already prepared to die. They thought they would be torn apart in the next second. However, they were still alive, but the 6 super mutant zombies were pierced with countless holes. Blood splattered. Motionless. What happened? Was it Mr. M.O.? But didn't Mr. M.O. leave the base 2 days ago? At this time, on the watchtower inside the city wall, 6 sanguisurincus quickly retracted along the watchtower. Finally, they crawled back to M.O. Sher's feet, along his legs, and retracted into M.O. Sher's body. During this process, he did not even look outside the city at all. His eyes were fixed on a certain place in the base. There, a blood-red corpse gas rose into the sky. Just one corpse's aura was 100 times stronger than the aura of the 100,000 super mutant zombies outside the city and the millions of human-headed spiders. At this moment, there was finally some movement in the area M.O. Sher was staring at. Over there was Old Lee's grave. But at this time, Old Lee's grave shook violently. At a certain moment, boom! There was an explosion. The entire tomb suddenly exploded, leaving behind a huge crater with a diameter of more than 50 meters. A figure slowly walked out from the dust. If Happy was there at that moment, he would definitely be able to recognize him. This person was none other than Old Lee. Her Uncle Lee. However, at this moment, Old Lee's back was no longer hunched and his legs were no longer lame. His figure seemed to be much taller than before. 2 ripping sounds came from his back. His clothes were torn. His upper body was naked. A pair of black-gray demon wings spread open instantly. When fully extended, It was more than 6 meters wide. With a flap of his wings, he soared into the sky. 50 meters above the ground, it flapped its wings and floated in the air. Then, a huge and unparalleled pressure was released from his body to the entire base. In the base, all the ordinary humans could not even stand under this huge pressure and fell to the ground one after another. Old Li slowly stretched out his hands, and a half-human, half-zombie roar came from his throat. Primitive humans, enjoy your last moments as humans. In the base, everyone looked up in horror. When they saw the human with wings above their heads, they all cried out in surprise. Old Li! Old Li is a zombie? Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. Mo Shi was a mysterious powerhouse, and Old Li lived in the same courtyard as Mo Shi. Therefore, everyone in the base was naturally paying attention to Old Li. Therefore, most of the people in the base knew Old Li. He was an honest and good man. He did the most inconspicuous job of keeping corpses in the base for decades. And they heard that Old Li had died a few days ago. Now, not only was Old Li not dead, but he suddenly appeared in front of them. He even flapped his wings and clambered above their heads. This made everyone wonder if there was a mistake. The old leader of the corpse farm was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. He usually scolded Old Li like a child, but he did not expect him to be a zombie. And by the looks of it, he definitely had a high status among the zombies. Just thinking about it scared him. With Old Li's strength, he could smash him to pieces with one slap. Happy widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Old Li in the sky in disbelief. How could Uncle Li be a zombie? More than 10 days ago, he had even called her and brother Mo to a meeting to settle their matter. Then, Uncle Li died. At that time, she and brother Mo buried Uncle Li as newbies. How could Uncle Li suddenly come back to life? And he became a zombie. Do Xiaodo, who had stayed in the corpse farm, also felt her mind go blank. Uncle Li was a zombie. This was too ridiculous. Even a novel would not dare to write like this. Among the more than 100,000 people in the base, the only one who was not surprised was Mo Shi. At this time, he was standing on the sentry tower. He looked at the Old Li in the sky calmly. After waiting for 2 days, this old man finally appeared. In fact, after he came back this time, he had already noticed that something was wrong with Old Li. After his dragons will reach level 2, his probing ability of human cells, blood, muscle tissue, and bones was 100 times stronger than before. When he accidentally probed, he found that Old Li's cells were different from ordinary people. In addition, when he blessed Old Li with his telekinesis, Old Li did not have any reaction, just like Happy. He felt that something was wrong with Old Li. He also used the blood demon's eyes to look at Old Li. In the end, it showed that his species was human every time. However, not only did this not make Mo Shi let down his guard, it made him feel even more strange. After that, Old Li asked him when he would leave. He guessed that Old Li would make a move after he left this time. The result was just as he expected. He used a clone to pretend to leave. And Old Li really did make a move. Now, he compared the blurry figure he saw in the nest's consciousness with Old Li's figure. They were exactly the same. The real king of zombies was not Qin Shi Huang's zombie, but Old Li. Of course, there were still many questions that he did not understand. For example, why did his blood demon's eyes not detect the zombie aura on Old Li's body before? Also, why did Old Li lurk in the base for so many years without making a move, and now he was going to make a move? However, this was not the time to explore these. Old Li was a zombie, and zombies must die. It was enough to know this. At this time, blood-red zombie aura surrounded Old Li's body. And this blood-red zombie aura was so thick that it could not be seen by Mo Shi's blood demon's eyes. Even those ordinary people could see it with their naked eyes. Old Li lowered his head and looked at Happy, who had fallen to the ground and was looking at him in disbelief. His roar was actually gentler than before. Happy, your Uncle Li is already dead. And now I... At this point, the gentleness in his voice had become violent and domineering. It's the king of zombies. How many people thought that Qin Shi Huang was the king of zombies? How many people did not think that Old Li was the king of zombies? Show me your claws. Chapter 146. The appearance of the zombie king, Old Li, shocked almost everyone in the base. Only Mo was calm. A blood-red color flashed in his cold eyes. The blood demon eyes opened. Race: zombie. Level: level 10 supermutated zombie. The Zombie King, Old Li, had reached level 10 supermutated zombie. With Mo's current strength, he was confident that he could deal with a level 8 supermutated zombie. But if he encountered a level 10 supermutated zombie, it would be difficult. Of course, he was not worried about himself. He was not worried about Happy. He had 2 layers of defense that no creature on Earth could break. He also had Dragon Shadow Steps. Although he could not kill the Zombie King could not do anything to him either. He was not worried about Happy either. He had the enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl, which could block any attack below level 10 supermutated zombie. If the Zombie King dared to attack him, it would be asking for trouble. He was worried about the entire base. With his and the Zombie King's strength, if they really fought, the entire base would not be able to withstand it. At this time, the Zombie King, Old Li, slowly turned his head to look at the sentry tower. No one noticed Mo there. But when Mo killed the 6 supermutated zombies, he already knew. He slowly shook his head, and a half-human, half-zombie voice came from his throat. "Little Mo, how dare you trick me?" Mo fixed his eyes on the Zombie King, but he didn't say anything. He was not like the main characters in novels who talked before a big battle. They could talk for 2 chapters. He was the type who would not talk nonsense when he could fight. On his back, a mass of blood-red energy slowly condensed into an illusory blood-red wing. His figure also slowly floated in the air. Only then did everyone realize that Mo was still in the base. And as a human he could fly in the air. This caused everyone to be pleasantly surprised. Mr. Mo is still in the base. Great, we are saved. What king of zombies? Not to mention one, even if there were 10 of them, they would still be no match for Mr. Mo. If Mo had noticed this person, he would have given him 2 tight slaps. Who told you to jinx it? Just one of them was enough to give him a headache, and now you want 10 of them? I'm not Yuan. However, at that moment, all of Mo's attention was focused on the Zombie King. He didn't have the energy to care about anything else. The King of Zombies didn't seem to be too angry about Mo killing 6 super mutant zombies. He shook his head slightly. I don't want to kill you. You'd better leave, as far as possible. Mo's face was calm. Although she didn't say anything, she didn't leave either. Seeing this, the Zombie King said, I see that you're a rare genius among humans, so I'll talk to you a bit more. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. The evolution of the human species is too slow. It's impossible for them to adapt to the increasingly intense competition for survival. The limit of a human's strength is a level 10 hunter. And a level 10 hunter will only be eliminated in the future competition for survival. In the end, the human species will go extinct like the dinosaurs. So, if you want human civilization to continue, you must first turn them into zombies. Among these zombies, a small portion will become super-evolved zombies. Only when they reach the level of super-evolved zombies can they adapt to the future competition for survival. Do you understand? Mo was still speechless. On the city wall, the hot girl refuted. Is this why you infected billions of people around the world and turned them into zombies? The Zombie King nodded slowly, then slowly shook his head. It's not that I want to infect humans. There are many things that you don't understand. You don't need to understand. In short, you just need to know that I'm doing this for the continuation of human civilization. After that, it seemed that it was too lazy to say another word. From its throat, it let out a low growl like a beast. Although it was just a low growl. However, this voice spread throughout the entire base. In the next moment, the more than 1 million human-headed spiders around the base suddenly surged toward the city wall of the base. Like a blood-red tide, they were about to drown the entire base. At the same time, outside the northwest corner of the city wall, nearly 100,000 strong mutated zombies also rushed toward the city wall together. Seeing this, Mo immediately spread out his dragon's mind. To kill all the strong mutated zombies and human-headed spiders. But at this moment, a huge wave of telekinesis pressed against his dragon's mind. He could feel that this huge wave of telekinesis was not dragon's mind. It was telekinesis. But it was not the telekinesis of ordinary psychokinesis. It was a huge telekinesis that far exceeded level 10 psychokinesis. Mo Sure turned his head, and his blood demon eyes swept across the 100,000-strong mutated zombies outside the northwest corner of the city wall. Only then did he realize that among the 100,000-strong mutated zombies, there were more than 100 zombies. They were not strong mutated zombies, nor super mutated zombies. The first one, frowny face race, zombie, level 3 telekinesis master. The second one, frowny face race, zombie, level 2 telekinesis master. The third one, frowny face race, zombie, level 5 telekinesis master. These more than 100 zombies, although in terms of physique, were only considered ordinary zombies. But they all had telekinesis. And they were not ordinary psychokinesis, but telekinesis masters that far exceeded psychokinesis. Among these more than 100 zombies, the highest level was a level 5 telekinesis master, and the lowest was a level 1 telekinesis master. The huge telekinesis of more than 100 telekinesis master zombies condensed into a terrifying wave of telekinesis that covered the sky and earth, blocking Mo Sure's dragon's mind. Although the telekinesis of so many telekinesis masters was only able to fight to a draw with Mo Sure's huge dragon's mind. But at this time, it was impossible for Mo Sure to divide his dragon's mind to kill those human-headed spiders and strong mutated zombies. At this time, all the telekinesis master zombies were actually very shocked in their hearts. With more than 100 telekinesis masters, they thought that they could easily kill this human if they worked together. In the end, this human's telekinesis alone blocked the overwhelming telekinesis of 100 telekinesis masters. How huge was this human's telekinesis? It was more than powerful. It was simply abnormal. Animal. Inhumane. The zombie king in the sky also showed a hint of surprise in its eyes. It said, "With the body of a human, you can become a great hunter and a telekinesis master on our barren planet. It has already surprised me. I didn't expect your telekinesis to be so huge. With one person's telekinesis, you can resist the telekinesis of more than 100 telekinesis masters. It's really amazing." Everyone on the ground had no idea that there were two huge waves of telekinesis competing in the sky. At this time, when they heard the Zombie King's explanation, they understood what Mr. Mo was doing at this time. What was a telekinesis master? Obviously, it should be a level higher than psychokinesis. It was similar to a hunter compared to a zombie hunter. Now, more than 100 telekinesis masters' telekinesis were twisted into one. How terrifying was that? They probably didn't even need to use any weapons. They could just use this telekinesis to blow up the entire base. And Mr. Mo was able to resist the telekinesis of more than 100 telekinesis masters with one person's telekinesis. How terrifying was his telekinesis? At this time, the Zombie King opened its mouth again. "However, you are now resisting the telekinesis of so many telekinesis masters. How can you take care of the entire base?" Before it finished speaking, the surging human-headed spiders were not far from the city wall. Nearly 100,000 strong mutated zombies were only more than 300 meters away from the city wall. I feel that if I don't let Mo Sure speak, I will lose a lot of words. It hurts. Chapter 147. Mo Sure's telekinesis was fighting against hundreds of telekinesis masters. Naturally, he had no time to care about the millions of human-headed spiders. What's more, there were nearly 100,000 strong mutated zombies. The Zombie King said coldly, "Mo Sure, don't be stubborn. How long can you last by yourself?" Just as he was talking, Mo Sure flicked his right finger gently. A blood-red thread as thick as a finger shot out more than 50 meters in an instant. It exploded in the air. But it didn't explode into smoke and fire like a bomb. Instead, it exploded into more spider webs. Thousands of spider webs. These blood-red spider webs instantly spread out to a radius of several kilometers. Then it shrouded the ground. After that, it formed a huge spider web that enveloped the entire base. Under the sunlight, this huge spider web reflected a blood-red light. A human-headed spider didn't care about the spider web at all. It planned to directly pass through the spider web and jump toward the city wall. In fact, it did pass through the spider web. But after passing through, it turned into a dozen pieces. A strong mutated zombie also tried to directly crash through the spider web with its body. After all, in its opinion, how could a mere spider web stop it? However, it was obvious that it was wrong. Before it jumped, it was still a complete zombie. After landing, it had already scattered into pieces of meat on the ground. With just this wave, more than 100,000 human-headed spiders and thousands of strong mutated zombies were cut into pieces of meat. All creatures, whether zombies, humans, or mutated beasts. At this moment, they were all horrified. This seemingly soft blood-red spiderweb was actually so sharp. Seeing this, the remaining zombies didn't dare to use their bodies to fight anymore. They all turned into sharp claws and blades and slashed at the blood-red spider web. However, they could only shake the spider web at most, but couldn't cut it at all. The blood-red spider web was actually so tough. Seeing this, the zombie king slowly shook his head. His gaze moved to Mo Sure. You are really getting more and more amazing. If humans could be as strong as you, I wouldn't have to spend so much effort to infect so many humans into zombies. I really can't bear to kill you. Then, he pointed to the sky in the distance. He said, if the two of us fight with all our strength, the base below will be reduced to ruins. Let's go over there. The purpose of the king of zombies was not to kill those human beings. Instead, he infected them all and turned them into zombies, hoping that a few of them could mutate into super mutated zombies. Therefore, they naturally didn't want to destroy the humans in the base. A glimmer of light flashed through Mo Sure's cold eyes. He didn't say anything, nor did he move. The Zombie King glanced at the nearly 100,000 zombies and the millions of human-headed spiders. He smiled and said, "Are you afraid that I'll cheat you? To trick you and let the zombies and human-headed spiders take the opportunity to attack the base?" Keek. A laugh that sounded half human and half zombie came out of his throat. "I am the king of zombies, a level 10 super mutated zombie. Why would I play tricks with you? Zombies aren't as despicable as humans." After that, he issued an order to all the zombies and human-headed spiders. "Without my orders, anyone who dares to attack the base will die." All the zombies and human-headed spiders were shocked. They all subconsciously took a few steps back. Only then did the king of zombies flap his wings and slowly fly out. Mo Sure's blood-red wings trembled slightly, and he slowly followed. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The king of zombies suddenly flapped his wings and turned around abruptly. His right hand turned into a blood-red spear. This spear instantly extended a distance of 100 meters. Puff! It directly pierced through Mo Sure's head. A smile appeared on the king of zombies' face. "Mo Sure, do you really think that only humans can play tricks? Too naive." However, at this moment, on the sentry tower, a figure instantly jumped out. This figure was so fast that it couldn't be seen by the human eye. After this figure jumped out, only a 100-meter-tall giant dragon shadow was left on the sentry tower. The next moment, this figure instantly arrived in front of the king of zombies in the air. A black light flashed in his left hand, and the enhanced version of the bloodthirsty zombie executioner instantly slashed at the king of zombies' face. It turned out that the Mo Sure who was flying in the air earlier was only his virus clone. And his real body had been hiding on the sentry tower all along. What a joke. His flying speed wasn't even as fast as the dragon shadow step. How could he give up his advantage and foolishly fly into the air to get beaten up? And because the king of zombies' speed was too fast, if he used any other moves, it would be dodged by it. And Mo Sure's genetic martial arts needed a little bit of time to condense. In the little bit of time he took to sneak attack, there was no time to condense it. If he condensed it in advance, the king of zombies would inevitably detect it. Therefore, with a thought, he took out the bloodthirsty zombie executioner and slashed at the king of zombies. However, kalala, an ear-piercing sound rang out. When the enhanced version of the bloodthirsty zombie executioner slashed across the king of zombies' body, it actually couldn't cut through its skin at all. Only a shallow white mark was left under its skin. At the same time, a series of sparks appeared. At the same time, the king of zombies' voice sounded in Mo Sure's ears. "You think I don't know that you have a clone?" The sounds coming out of its throat sounded more and more like that of a zombie. In the next moment, it stretched out its hand and directly hugged Mo Sure. Then, dozens of sharp spikes instantly popped out from its body. It was trying to pierce Mo Shi into a sieve. However, it was also at this moment that blood-red scales appeared on the surface of Mo Shi's body. A set of blood-red battle armor formed on its body. Under this set of blood-red battle armor, a Titan dragon breastplate condensed. And on its head, a dragon-shaped helmet condensed. Those dozens of sharp spikes pierced the blood dragon armor, but they were unable to break through the defense at all. Only a series of sharp sounds could be heard. The King of Zombies' eyes suddenly focused. How was that possible? With its current strength, the bone spikes formed in its body could be said to be indestructible. They could even easily pierce through iron and stone. This kid was definitely not more than a level 5 great hunter. How could he withstand the attack of its bone spikes? It was also at this moment that a black crossbow appeared in Mo Shi's right hand. This crossbow was directly pressed against the head of the King of Zombies. Although the King of Zombies was surprised by the defense of Mo Shi's battle armor, at this moment, it saw that Mo Shi had actually taken out an inconspicuous crossbow. It couldn't help but laugh again. Do you know that I have an indestructible body? After reaching level 10 supermutation, I can have an indestructible body. In this world, there is nothing that can break. Puff, before it finished speaking, a wooden arrow had already been nailed into its head. Its arrogant voice came to an abrupt end. It was only at this moment that Mo Shi finally spoke for the first time. Then do you know that I have a Qin crossbow? Chapter 148. Qin Nu's crossbow arrow made a powerful sound. Boom! It directly nailed into the Zombie King's head. The Zombie King's hoarse, strange laughter came to an abrupt end. That sinister smile suddenly froze on its face. Its gaze looked at the hard crossbow in Mo Shi's hand in disbelief. Its body had actually been broken by a mere wooden crossbow arrow. How was this possible? His body was the indestructible Vajra body. However, its shock did not last long. The next second, boom! A soft sound. The crossbow arrow in its head actually exploded in an instant. On the surface, although the Zombie King's head did not explode, its brain had already exploded into a mass of paste. Its eyes, nostrils, ears, and mouth all had blood gushing out. His appearance was very frightening. It turned out that Mo Shi knew that although Qin Nu's crossbow arrow could break everything, but the super-mutated zombie's self-healing ability was extremely terrifying. Even if it lost its head, it could still heal itself. Naturally, it could not be killed by a crossbow arrow. So Mo Shi had already infused his dragon's will into this crossbow arrow. When the crossbow arrow nailed into the Zombie King's head, the dragon's will hidden in the crossbow arrow directly exploded. Under the suppression of the dragon's will, the self-healing ability of the Zombie King's cells almost completely disappeared. This was why the Zombie King's head exploded in one fell swoop. But even so, Mo Shi was still not at ease. When the Zombie King's body fell down, his dragon's will had already followed the small hole that the crossbow arrow shot out and once again probed into its head. Then, starting from the head, it exploded all the way down. Boom 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 boom. A muffled sound came from the Zombie King's body. In the end, its body crashed onto the ground with a bang. On the surface, its body looked intact. But only Mo Shi knew that its body had already become a mass of paste. With his dragon's will suppressing the activity of the Zombie King's cells, its self-healing ability could not be used at all. And Mo Shi also discovered that the crossbow arrow itself carried another kind of virus. This virus was also extremely lethal to Virus X. Even if he didn't use the dragon will to blow up the Zombie King's body, the virus would still cause great damage to the Zombie King's body, making it unable to heal itself. At this moment, the Zombie King was dead. In the sky, a pair of blood-red wings sprouted from Mo Shi's back. It floated there quietly. Whew! He finally spat out a mouthful of turbid air. This was the benefit of cultivating both the body and mind. For ordinary people, not to mention that they couldn't dual cultivate. Even if they could dual cultivate, no one would choose to do so. After all, whether it was strengthening one's body or mind, it would take a lot of time. The result of dual cultivation was that neither of them could reach great heights. However, Mo Shi did not have this problem. With the sign-in system, his speed of improvement was far beyond that of ordinary people. Dual cultivation was not a problem at all. However, just as Mo Shi's heart was about to relax, A voice suddenly rang out. A dragon will that was as huge as a mountain suddenly came crashing down on him. This dragon will was so enormous that it seemed like it was going to swallow him whole. Emo sure was a little surprised. There was actually a huge dragon will hidden in the Zombie King's body. This dragon will was much stronger than his current level 2 dragon will. Moreover, this dragon will was just like the dragon will in Fan's Pure Mountain's dragon ruins. It also wanted to devour his dragon will and take over the magpie's nest. Emo sure smiled. Alright, since I can't resist, I'll just lie down and enjoy it. Soon, the incomparably powerful dragon will entered Emo sure's body. It domineeringly rushed towards Emo sure's brain. A hoarse voice came from the dragon will. Ha 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 ha. I thought that the Zombie King's indestructible body was already the strongest body on this broken planet. I didn't expect that I would encounter the indestructible body of 10,000 poisons. This is the heavens helping me, the plague dragon, making a comeback. Ha ha. Kid, to be able to be devoured by me, Lord Plague Dragon, is your... However, just as it said this, its words abruptly stopped. In the next moment, this arrogant, domineering, and disdainful words turned into a scream. What? Impossible. No! A few seconds later, its dragon will was finally devoured by Emo sure. Emo sure felt that his dragon will was at least 10 times stronger. As long as he devoured this dragon will a few more times, his dragon will should be able to improve again. This dragon will naturally belong to the plague dragon. It was only now that Emo sure realized that in the dragon ruins, although the plague dragon's body couldn't break free, its dragon will had already split into many dragon wills and escaped. These dragon wills were hidden in many creatures. They were slowly waiting for an opportunity. As long as there was a dragon will in the future that could strengthen the body into a giant dragon's body, it could once again reappear in the world. Moreover, this plague dragon was very cunning. Every dragon will was independent. It was impossible for Emo sure to obtain information about the other dragon wills from this dragon will. He could only slowly think of a way to find it in the future. From the beginning of Emo sure's battle with the Zombie King until the Zombie King was killed and fell to the ground. Until he devoured the dragon will. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in just over 10 seconds. The speed of his battle with the Zombie King was so fast that the humans below couldn't see it clearly at all. They only saw 2 shadows flash, and Emo sure and the Zombie King hugged each other. After stopping for 2 to 3 seconds, the Zombie King's body fell to the ground. No one knew what kind of fierce battle Emo sure had experienced in these short 10 seconds. Whether it was his body or his dragon will. They had experienced a fierce battle that they could never imagine. If Emo sure didn't have the blood dragon armor, the Titan dragon breastplate, and the dragon will devour, he would have been the one to die. It was only at this moment that the shadow of the giant dragon that remained on the sentry tower slowly disappeared. Everyone looked at Emo sure in surprise. The Zombie King is dead. Mr. Emo won. Mr. Emo won. I knew it. Mr. Emo would definitely win. From the moment the Zombie King appeared, they knew that Mr. Mo would definitely win. Because according to past experience, Mr. Mo's strength was too terrifying. No matter what enemy he encountered, he would basically crush them. Naturally, they didn't think that Mr. Mo would lose. But they would never know how dangerous this battle was for Emo sure. Although there was no earth-shattering explosion, no meteorite falling from the sky. However, the danger was greater than any other time. This was the first time Emo sure had truly used his full strength since he obtained the system. Although he had used his full strength twice in the past, those 2 times, it was basically a full strength attack. It was also considered to crush the opponent. And this time, he and the Zombie King had already exchanged several blows in those short few seconds. He had almost taken out all the trump cards that he could use under such circumstances. If the Zombie King hadn't been too careless and actually courted death by closing the distance, he wouldn't have been able to kill it at all. However, this wasn't the end. He extended his dragon will and directly pressed down on the human-headed spiders and strong mutated zombies outside the blood-colored spider web. Chapter 149. Emo sure killed the king of zombies and swallowed the plague dragon's dragon consciousness. This surprised all the humans, but also frightened all the infected creatures. A strong mutant zombie widened its eyes. His grayish-white eyes were filled with shock. Another strong mutant zombie was also in disbelief. No zombie could have imagined such an ending. In their eyes, their king was a godlike existence. It was the strongest existence on Earth. But now, their king was killed by a lowly human. How could they not be shocked? After they recovered from the shock, they were extremely frightened. This human was too strong. The only thing they could do now was to run away. So almost all the strong mutant zombies turned around and fled. However, could they escape? Sher's dragon consciousness probed and attacked the human-headed spiders and strong mutant zombies outside the city wall. At the same time, the more than 100 psychic masters among the zombies once again twisted their psychic power into a huge overwhelming psychic power, trying to stop Sher's dragon consciousness. However, soon, the eyes of all the psychic master zombies were full of fear. Because they felt that this human psychic power was at least 10 times stronger than before. Just now, the psychic power of hundreds of them could barely compete with this human psychic power. But now, this human's telekinesis was so powerful that it easily crushed their telekinesis. The next moment. Bang 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 bang. The bodies of all the psychic master zombies burst into a cloud of blood mist. It was like a huge firework. The blood mist of their heads flashed a wine-red light under the sun. However, this was just the beginning. Bang 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 bang. The bodies of nearly 100,000 strong mutant zombies directly burst. Bang 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 bang. The bodies of nearly 1,000,000 human-headed spiders directly burst. If one looked down from a high altitude, they would find that the C1 base was surrounded by a wine-red mist at this time. At this point, all the zombies were destroyed. All the human-headed spiders were destroyed. More than 100,000 people in the base once again witnessed Sher's violence and dominance. The power of one person killed millions of people. This was not the first time they had met. But last time, they were ambushed by ordinary zombies. This time, among the corpses, there were hundreds of thousands of level 8 and above mutated zombies. A strong zombie above level 8 was enough to throw the base into chaos. Their base would not be able to withstand 100,000 level 8 and above mutated zombies. In the face of such power, the hunter group could only be cannon fodder. However, with a single thought, Sher detonated all the infected creatures, including the strong mutant zombies above level 8. His strength was so strong that no one dared to imagine it. Whew! Sher let out another long sigh of relief. Finally, everything was settled. He took out 5 bottles of recovery potion and 2 bottles of brain cell recovery potion. He swallowed them all in one go. In this battle on the surface, it seemed that he had the absolute advantage, and he had been crushing everyone along the way. However, only he knew how much his body and brain had been drained. After swallowing all the recovery potions, his body began to recover rapidly. His dragon will was also rapidly recovering. His eyes fell on the corpse of the Zombie King. He felt a little regretful in his heart. According to what the Zombie King had said before, it should know a lot of things. It was a pity that in the battle just now, he had no time to use memory plunder on it. Otherwise, he should have been able to know what it was from its memory. Shaking his head, Sher no longer bothered about this. He said in his mind, "System, sign in." Now that he had experience, he didn't have to sign in just after midnight anymore. Instead, he kept the sign-in opportunity. If something special happened on this day, or if he went to some special place and didn't have the opportunity to sign in, wouldn't it be a big loss? He kept the sign-in opportunity until before midnight. If nothing special happened, he would sign in. Now that he had killed the Zombie King, this was naturally a special event. He should be able to sign something good. In his mind, the system's response immediately came: frowny face, sign-in successful. Sign-in event, killing the Zombie King. Sign-in reward, 1, Zombie King Crystal Cores 10. Sign-in reward, 2, Zombie King's memory. Sign-in reward, 3, Bloodthirsty Zombie Slayer, Ultimate Version, 1 sign-in, 3 rewards. Although it took a lot of effort to kill the Zombie King, it was definitely a profit. The first thing Sher noticed was the Zombie King's memory. He was just regretting that he couldn't plunder the Zombie King's memory, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. Then, it was the Bloodthirsty Zombie Slayer, Ultimate Version. Bloodthirsty Zombie Slayer, Ultimate Version 1,000 times sharper than the strengthened version of the Bloodthirsty Zombie Slayer. It can cause great damage to the invincible Vajra body. Sure was overjoyed when he saw this introduction. If he had the ultimate version of the bloodthirsty zombie slayer earlier, he wouldn't have had to fight so tirelessly just now. Finally, he looked at the Zombie King's crystal core. Zombie King Crystal Core. The crystallization of the virus in the Zombie King's body can be used to strengthen the host's body. Sure was secretly happy when he saw this. It turned out that in addition to the modification liquid, the Zombie King's crystal core could also be used to strengthen the body. He just didn't know if the effect of the Zombie King's crystal core was as strong as the modification liquid. But at this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. He should think about it when he returned to the zombie farm. Just as he was thinking, Happy came up to him. She looked at Sure with eyes full of concern. Sure grinned and patted her head. "I'm fine." It was only then that Happy felt at ease. When Sure was fighting just now, all the 100,000 people in the base were more or less worried. But the others were worried that if Sure was defeated, the entire base would be finished. Happy was the only one who was worried about Sure. Every time Sure fought, she would be worried. Sure could naturally feel the concern in Happy's eyes. He took Happy's hand and said, "Let's go. Let's go home." Happy nodded obediently. Under the gazes of the crowd, he followed Sure to the corpse farm. At this moment, everyone was a little puzzled. Mr. Was so strong. Why would he like a mute girl? Was it because she was beautiful? But there were many beautiful girls in the base, and they could talk and cause trouble. What was so good about her? In the end, they could only conclude that everyone had their own preferences. Of course, there were also some girls who were envious and jealous of Happy. Chapter 150. No wonder those girls were envious and jealous. What was the most important thing in the apocalypse? Living. That was the only thing that mattered. If they could have a boyfriend as powerful as Sure, living wouldn't be a problem. Unfortunately, there was only one Sure. Of course, there were also girls who had evil thoughts. However, when they thought of Sure's ruthlessness, they decisively dismissed the idea. For the sake of Happy, Sure didn't even let go of the former Chief Ma. There was an old saying that a dragon had a reverse scale, and those who touched it would die. Happy was Sure's reverse scale. If they dared to have any ideas about Happy, wouldn't they be courting death? The base chief watched Sure leave and was silent for a long time. When he came back to his senses, he said to the staff officer beside him, "Pass down the order. From now on, no one is allowed to provoke Mr. Mo's girlfriend. Violators will be killed on the spot." When the people around heard this, they were all stunned. Provoking a woman and killing her on the spot? Wasn't this a little too much? However, the staff officer understood the chief's meaning. Harsh laws were used in troubled times. If they didn't kill him on the spot, it wouldn't be enough to calm Mr. Mo's anger. If Mr. Mo was angered, it would definitely be a disaster for the entire base. Thinking of this, the staff officer's expression was solemn and he said solemnly, "Yes, Chief. Don't worry, from now on, no one will dare to provoke Mr. Mo's woman." Sure and Happy returned to the zombie farm. He comforted Happy. Sure returned to his house. With a thought, he took out a Zombie King's crystal core. This crystal core was the size of a fingernail. It looked wine red and crystal clear. Sure pondered for a moment. How should he use this thing? Swallow it directly? It seemed a little disgusting to swallow something from a zombie's body directly. Although it was something that he had signed in from the system, it was still a little disgusting. It was like feeling disgusted when you saw Papa. Even if it was a Papa that he had signed in from the system, it still made people feel disgusted. Of course, there were people with profound skills who could directly go to the toilet. In any case, Sure was in awe of that person and felt ashamed of his inferiority. Fortunately, when the crystal core entered his hand, it turned into a dark red mist. Then, it followed Sure's pores and sweat pores. It drilled into his body. Within Sure's body, that familiar burning sensation came once again. However, this feeling was different from before. When the modification liquid was used, it was mainly used to modify cells, increase the toughness of cells and expand their capacity. Next was to strengthen the muscle tissue, bones, and blood vessels. However, the strengthening of the body by the crystal core mainly strengthened the whole body, the muscle tissue, the bones, and the blood vessels. It did not have much of a strengthening effect on the cells. Of course, the overall strengthening effect was extremely significant. In just 5 minutes, Mo Shi felt that the heat in his body had reached its limit. If his body temperature continued to rise, even a level 4 great hunter like him wouldn't be able to withstand it. Fortunately, his body temperature stopped rising after 5 minutes. Instead, he maintained this temperature for 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, his body temperature finally began to drop. At this moment, he could clearly feel that his muscles seemed to have undergone a round of tempering. His muscle strength had greatly increased. Under such circumstances, just the strength of his body alone was extremely terrifying. He even felt that even the genetic martial arts of hunters might not be able to cause harm to his body. Of course, this was just a feeling. As for whether it was true or not, he wouldn't be so bored as to find someone to test him with a genetic martial art. Wouldn't that be sick? At this moment, he looked at his attribute interface again. Name, Mo Shi. Level 5 Great Hunter, Level 2 Long Nian Shi. Evolution path, Titan Dragon. Finally, he had leveled up again. Mo Shi could feel the surging power in his body. If there was another level, 10 super mutated zombie now, it wouldn't be as difficult for him as before. Don't think that it was only one level from level 4 to level 5 Great Hunter. One had to know that the difference between each level of a Great Hunter was extremely huge. A level 5 Great Hunter could easily crush over 100 level 4 Great Hunters. If Mo Shi and the Zombie King were to fight again, the Zombie King wouldn't be able to survive. With his level 5 Great Hunter and level 2 Long Nian Shi, he could directly crush the Zombie King that was 5 levels higher. Mo Shi was so excited that he absorbed the rest of the 9 Zombie King crystal nuclei. He felt that his strength had obviously increased by a lot. If he absorbed another 80 or 90 crystal cores, he should be able to break through. This wasn't difficult. When he signed in tomorrow, wouldn't it be fine if he signed in 100 crystal cores? However, at this moment, the system's voice suddenly rang in Mo Shi's mind. In a short period of time, the crystal core's effect is indeed stronger than the Titan Dragon bloodline modification liquid. However, the crystal core strengthens the entire body and has no effect on the cells. Therefore, the upper limit of the body strengthened by the crystal core is too low. The host's goal is to evolve into a Titan Dragon. If you keep using the crystal core to strengthen your body, you will be far from reaching this goal. System recommendation. It is possible to use the crystal core to strengthen your body once in a while, but you must not use the crystal core to strengthen your body too often. Mo Shi felt a little disappointed. But thinking about it, it made sense. His goal was a Titan Dragon. If he kept using the crystal core to strengthen himself, even if he reached the limit, he would only be a Zombie King. How could a Zombie King compare to a Titan Dragon? Having figured this out, Mo Shi no longer had any regrets in his heart. He checked his evolution points in his mind. He originally had more than 200 million evolution points. After today's battle, he had obtained more than 1.4 billion evolution points. His total evolution points had already reached 1.6 billion. The Zombie King seemed to have come to attack the base. But in reality, it had come to give him evolution points. Mo Shi even imagined a notification in his mind. Your evolution points have been received. Please check. In reality, the system's notification really did appear in his mind. It was just that the content was frowny face evolution points have exceeded 1 billion. The system can be upgraded. Do you wish to upgrade? Mo Shi naturally replied without hesitation. Upgrade. Upgrade requires 12 hours. You cannot sign in during the upgrade. The system's notifications sounded again. With regards to this, Mo Shi was naturally familiar with it. While the system was upgrading, Mo Shi had nothing to do. Thus, he checked the Zombie King's memories. After checking, many of the doubts in Mo Shi's mind were solved. It turned out that the Zombie King was not originally a human. It was also not a zombie that was transformed from a human. Instead, it was an amalgamation of viruses. In other words, it was originally a humanoid virus. In the beginning, this humanoid virus did not have consciousness. However, after infecting too many humans, It seemed to have been influenced by human thinking and gradually formed its own consciousness. Chapter 151. After infecting too many humans, the humanoid virus gained its own consciousness. At the same time it began to possess humans. However, after it possessed a human, the human would die in a short time. After a long time, it finally found a human with a physique that was almost completely compatible with its virus. This human was naturally Old Li. After finding a suitable host, its strength greatly increased, and it became the king of zombies. After it merged with Old Li's body, Old Li did not die, nor did he become a zombie. When it hid all the virus in Old Li's cells, Old Li looked completely like an ordinary person. Not even a trace of corpse aura would leak out. This was also the reason why Mo Shi's blood demon eyes couldn't detect it. As for the plague dragon's consciousness in its body, it should have been accidentally invaded by the dragon's consciousness when it went to the Brahma's pure mountain. Because of the huge dragon's consciousness in its body, when Mo Shi wanted to activate Old Li to become a psychokinesis, Old Li did not respond. Later, the king of zombies and Old Li had been together for a long time, and its thinking gradually became closer to that of humans. Somehow, it felt that humans would face an extremely severe competition for survival in the future. On today's Earth, the virus mainly relied on humans to survive. If humans were too weak and were directly wiped out, it would not be a good thing for the virus. Therefore, it tried to make humans stronger. In its opinion, there were two ways to make humans stronger. One was to infect humans. After humans were infected, there was a certain chance that they would become super mutated zombies. The other was to wait for the human laboratory to develop an enhancer. In the king of zombies' eyes, there was no difference between the two methods. Therefore, after infecting enough humans, it did not kill all the humans in the base. Until now, nearly 30 years had passed, and the enhancer developed by the laboratory could only make humans reach the level of a level 10 hunter. And that was only in theory. Until now, there had not been a real level 10 hunter. This made it very disappointed. Therefore, it planned to mobilize all the zombies to infect all the humans in Wuxia. However, it did not expect Mo Shi to appear in the middle. In fact, the king of zombies admired Mo Shi very much. How could a human be so powerful? If it was able to possess Mo Shi's body one day, they would definitely be an invincible existence when the two of them joined forces. Unfortunately, they became enemies in the end. At the same time, Mo Shi learned another thing from the Zombie King's memory. It was not the only king of zombies in the world. Apart from it, there were 7 other zombie kings. They were distributed in other densely populated places around the world. Seeing this, Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat. Gathering all 7 Dragon Balls would allow one to summon Shenron. It seemed that in the future, he would have to go to other places and clean up the other zombie kings. He should be able to obtain quite a number of crystal cores. Although he couldn't absorb crystal nuclei regularly, he could absorb them occasionally. The crystal core was extremely useful. Even if he occasionally absorbed it, it would allow him to level up quickly. But that was all in the future. At the same time, Mo Shi received a message from the Zombie King's mind. This time, the Zombie King didn't just attack the C1 base. Instead, it ordered all the zombies and human-headed spiders in Wuxia to attack all the bases. Now that this base was saved, the other bases were unable to resist the attack of the large number of zombies. Especially among these zombies, there was a portion of them that were super mutated zombies. Thinking of this, Mo Shi's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, his figure disappeared from the spot. In the zombie field, only a 100-meter-tall giant dragon shadow was left. Although he was not a saint, he was not a good person. But if he did not take action, the Wuxia civilization would only have 100,000 people left in the C1 base. In the future, the difficulty of rebuilding the civilization would be greatly increased. Moreover, he estimated that he would obtain at least 3 to 4 billion evolution points. Moreover, the Zombie King had been dealt with. Only a level 8 super mutated Qin Shi Huang zombie was left. Then, he could really do whatever he wanted in the entire Wuxia. For him, there was no danger at all. In the C1 base, almost everyone turned their heads and looked at the 100-meter-tall giant dragon shadow. Although it was not the first time they saw the giant dragon shadow. Every time they saw it, their hearts would be shocked. Happy raised his head and looked at the giant dragon shadow. She was the closest, so she could feel the pressure of the giant dragon shadow. Even if it was just a shadow, she did not dare to look directly at it. She could only silently pray for Mo Sure in her heart. She hoped that brother Mo could return safely. Mo Sure covered 10 kilometers with one step. Even the furthest base in the new province only needed to take about 200 steps. In just a moment, he had already arrived at the C7 base. At this time, the C7 base had already been surrounded by hundreds of thousands of human-headed spiders. There were also 10,000 strong mutated zombies. Among them, there were even 2 super mutated zombies. In the face of the attack of such a powerful force, the people of the C7 base were filled with despair. The hunter group in their base only had about 7,000 people. Among them, only about 80 people had reached the level of hunter. Psychokinesis only had about 40 people. How could they resist the attack of these zombies and human-headed spiders? In the base, a girl was tightly hugging her father's neck. The father gently stroked the back of his 8-year-old daughter and softly comforted her. "Cola, don't be afraid. We'll be fine." The daughter raised her head and asked in panic, "Dad, really?" The father's eyes were firm as he nodded and said, "Of course." Only then did the daughter feel slightly relieved. However, the father's heart was filled with endless sorrow. In a room in a residential building, a young man tightly hugged his girlfriend next to him. The girl's eyes were filled with tears, and her voice trembled slightly. "Little Hai, if there really is an afterlife, I still want to be your girlfriend." The young man closed his eyes in pain. They had just fallen in love, and they had encountered such a great disaster. God, how could you be so cruel? However, in the face of such a disaster, what could he do? He could only hug his girlfriend tightly. After a long time, he only said one word, "Yes." At this time, the base chief, who was a level 6 hunter, was standing on the sentry tower. He saw the first high wall being breached with his own eyes. Then he saw the second high wall being breached with his own eyes. Now, the infected creatures were attacking the last high wall. He felt a wave of sorrow in his heart. After guarding for almost 30 years, finally, he could not hold on any longer. However, as a former soldier, he had the iron-blooded spirit of a soldier in his heart. Even if he had to die, he would die in battle. Seeing that the last high wall was about to be breached, his eyes widened. His eyes were wide open, and a few streaks of blood could be seen in his eyes. In his right hand, a genetic weapon condensed. Almost using all the strength he had in his life, he roared out, "Hunter Squad, charge!" The over 8,000 people in the Hunter Squad immediately let out a roar like a wild beast in a desperate fight. They charged towards the infected creatures. Behind them, over 20,000 ordinary soldiers also charged forward. There were even civilians who were holding crowbars, steel pipes, fire axes, and electric saws. They all charged forward. All of them were already prepared to die. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 152. Just as everyone was charging forward with the will to die, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a blood-red spider web fell from the sky. This spider web was like a steel needle as thick as a finger, and it directly nailed into the head of a super mutant zombie. The next moment, it exploded inside the body of the super mutant zombie. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Dozens of blood-red spider webs shot out from the body of the super mutant zombie. These blood-red spider webs nailed into the bodies of the other zombies next to it. Dozens of blood-red spider webs also shot out from the bodies of those zombies. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In just a minute. Under such a chain effect, all the infected creatures were pierced by the blood-red spider webs. The blood-red spider webs seemed to have formed a large net around the base. And those infected creatures were like insects stuck in the spider web. Everyone who was charging forward was stunned. Then they stopped. The roars of the infected creatures and the shouts of the people in the base all disappeared at this time. A gust of spring wind blew the leaves around the base. Everyone looked at the sudden huge spider web in horror as if they had seen a ghost. After a long time, someone's Adam's apple wriggled. There was a gulping sound in his throat. What's going on? What is this thing? It killed all the infected creatures. Superpower? Magic? Or mutant? At this time, Someone saw the 100-meter-tall dragon's shadow 5 kilometers away. Chief, look. When everyone heard this, they all turned their heads to look. Is that a giant dragon? I remember the last time the mysterious strong man appeared. There was such a giant dragon shadow. Right, the last time I was in the wilderness, I saw the mysterious strong man from afar. He stepped 1 kilometer and left such a giant dragon shadow behind him. It's just that the dragon's shadow was only about 10 meters tall and 30 meters long. It was far less shocking than this 100-meter-tall shadow. The chief's eyes flashed. Although the mysterious strong man did not appear, he saved 100,000 people in their base. Everyone in the base should be grateful to the mysterious strong man. Soon, the news spread throughout the base. In the base, there was a sudden jubilation. They rejoiced at the fact that they had survived a calamity and were excited at the fact that they had avoided another calamity. The father excitedly lifted his daughter high above his head. Kola, we're safe. Everyone is safe. The girl smiled happily. Dad, did the mysterious expert save us? That's right, little Kola. We will remember your kindness for the rest of our lives. In the residential area, the young man and his girlfriend embraced each other tightly. We are still alive. Little Hai. You said before that if there was a next life, you would still want to be my girlfriend. Now that we've been reborn, it's already our next life. After saying this, the two of them had tears in their eyes. Love that had experienced life and death was the most sincere and beautiful. After a long time, the girl spoke. We should thank the mysterious expert. In the next hour, the same thing happened in all the other bases except for C1, C3, and C4. During this hour, the words mysterious expert resounded in the hearts of all the survivors in these bases. In base C2, Hao Ran and Zhen Shishir held hands tightly. It's Shir. Yes, it's him. In Laiyuan Temple, the old monk lowered his eyes and put his palms together. He said sincerely, Amitba. The little monk behind him also put his palms together and said, That's good. At this moment, Shir was not far away from base C3. This was the former capital. There were still hundreds of thousands of infected creatures surrounding base C3. However, Shir did not immediately make a move. Because behind those infected creatures, an army of 8,000 people was rushing over at an inhuman speed. These 8,000 people were all wearing black armor and had green faces. There were holes in some parts of their bodies. From the holes, one could see the flesh and blood inside. These were 8,000 terracotta zombies. At the front was a zombie riding a terracotta zombie horse. Black dragon battle robe and black dragon armor. A black dragon helmet and a black face. Zombie Qin Shi Huang. Shir finally saw this zombie Qin Shi Huang for the first time. He knew that sooner or later, he would have to fight this zombie Qin Shi Huang. But he did not expect to meet him so soon. The zombie Qin Shi Huang saw the few super-mutated zombies among the infected creatures. He grabbed the zombie horse's head and let out a roar that was neither human nor zombie. They are the people of Great Qin, my people. Those who dare to hurt the people of Great Qin will be killed without mercy. Shir was a little speechless. It seemed that after Qin Shi Huang appeared, he would not be able to jump out of his emperor mindset for a while. It had been almost 2,000 years, and he still wanted to call himself the people of Great Qin. What nonsense was that? However, since Qin Shi Huang wanted to kill these infected creatures, then let's see how strong he was first. When those super-mutated zombies heard Qin Shi Huang's words, they turned their heads. Then they waved at Qin Shi Huang and let out a roar. Roar! The tens of thousands of infected creatures immediately turned around and charged towards Qin Shi Huang. Qin Shi Huang waved his hand at the 8,000 terracotta zombies behind him and roared, Qin Army Arrow Formation, get into formation! Those 8,000 zombie terracotta zombies immediately got into a rectangular formation. It was 100 people long and 80 people wide. Each zombie terracotta took out a bronze crossbow from the buckle on their back. They opened the quiver and took out the arrows and placed them on the crossbow mechanism. When Shir saw that, he thought to himself, Qin Army Arrow Formation is famous in the world. Before this, I had only heard of it or read about it in books. Today I can finally see it with my own eyes. However, the Qin Army Arrow Formation could deal with normal armies. Would it work against these hundreds of thousands of infected creatures? Very quickly, the Qin army arrow formation gave him the answer. Qin Shi Huang raised the bronze sword in his hand. He waited for the infected creatures to enter 1,000 meters.
He roared out, "Release the arrows." Bang! The 8,000 crossbows seemed to have only made a single sound.
Xiao, the 8,000 crossbow bolts also seemed to emit the same loud sound. In the next moment, the arrows drew a huge arc that spanned close to 1,000 meters in the air. They scattered towards the ground. Pu. A spider with a human head was directly nailed to the ground and did not move. A super-mutated zombie was shot in the left eye by a crossbow arrow and instantly fell to the ground and did not move. 8,000 crossbow bolts covered a wide area. Those infected creatures wanted to hide, but it was too late.
What was strange was that even if the arrows only hit the arms and legs of the zombies and did not hit their heads, those zombies would still die in a short period of time.
And the self-healing ability of the mutated zombies seemed to be useless under these arrows. Mo Shi used his dragon sense to investigate and realized that the arrows were infected with the zombie virus.
And these zombie viruses, after entering the bodies of the zombies, would quickly kill the X virus in the bodies of the zombies.
Of course, in this process, the zombie virus on the arrows would also be consumed. The zombie virus was the real reason why these zombies were killed. Chapter 153. The Qin army's arrow formation was well known. In the past, Mo Shi had only seen it in books and TV dramas. Today, he witnessed the power of the Qin army's arrow formation. In one round of arrows, over 300 strong mutated zombies were killed. The Qin crossbows were bigger and harder than normal crossbows. Hence, the speed of the arrows was much faster. Even the strong mutated zombies could not avoid the arrows. Once the skin was scratched, the zombie virus on the arrows would enter the zombie's body. After 3 rounds of arrows, close to 1,000 strong mutated zombies were killed. The rest of the mutated zombies did not dare to move forward. The hundreds of thousands of human-headed spiders were probably too stupid. Although many of their companions had died, they still charged forward fearlessly. Although the Qin army's arrow formation was strong, there were too many human-headed spiders. In the end, a large number of human-headed spiders broke through the arrow formation and arrived 100 meters away from the Qin army. Mo Shi originally thought that the human-headed spiders would be able to charge into the Qin army and fight with the zombie terracotta soldiers. But at this moment, Qin Shi Huang waved his bronze sword. He roared, "Shoot straight." The zombie terracotta soldiers lowered the angle of the arrows. It was almost flying close to the ground. At the same time, the speed at which they shot arrows was much faster than before. These zombie terracotta soldiers were all at least level 5 mutated zombies. Their hand speed was extremely fast. Shooting 2 arrows in a second was not a problem. Also, when they finished shooting the arrows in their quiver, the bones in their hands would grow bone spikes. The bone spikes were as long as the arrows. It looked like a crossbow made of bone. After shooting 1 arrow, another one would grow out of their arms. Hence, they did not have to worry about running out of arrows. As a result, the crossbow bolts formed a dense barrier of death. All the human-headed spiders died quickly after entering this barrier. Mo Shi was secretly shocked. The Qin army's arrow formation was indeed worthy of its reputation. In the distance, the 3 super-mutated zombies looked at each other. Then, the 3 super-mutated zombies suddenly shot out together. They went around the arrow formation with a speed of almost 1,000 meters per second and headed straight for Qin Shi Huang. However, when they pounced in front of Qin First Emperor, the zombie horse under Qin First Emperor suddenly let out a roar. Hiss-oh! Its eyes were blood red. Then he opened his mouth. The horse opened its mouth. The teeth in his mouth were shaped like awls. Under the sunlight, they shone with a cold light. It opened its mouth and bit the arm of a super mutant zombie. Crack! The arm of the super mutant zombie was bitten off. The zombie virus quickly infected its entire body. The super mutant zombie collapsed to the ground. Mo Shi was secretly surprised. He looked over with his blood demon eyes. Race, zombie horse level 5 super mutated dam. Qin Shi Huang's mount is actually a level 5 super mutated beast. No wonder this zombie horse could easily kill that super mutated zombie. So that's where the level lies. Seeing this, the remaining 2 super mutant zombies did not dare to attack from the front. They could only attack Qin Shi Huang from the side. However, when they attacked, Qin Shi Huang did not dodge. It wasn't because it was careless. Instead, it was unnecessary.
The bronze sword in its hand suddenly drew a black arc in the air.
Swish, swish, 2 sounds. The heads of the 2 super mutant zombies flew up. Qin Shi Huang reached level 8 super mutated beast. Those 2 zombies were only level 2 super mutated beasts. In front of Qin Shi Huang, they were completely weak.
With the death of these 3 super mutant zombies, the remaining strong mutant zombies were like a group of dragons without a leader.
One by one, they fled in all directions in fear. At this moment, Qin Shi Huang waved his bronze sword. Kill! The 8,000 Qin soldiers put away their crossbows and took out their bronze swords. They chased after the hundreds of thousands of human-headed spiders and strong mutant zombies. In a short period of time, the hundreds of thousands of human-headed spiders and strong mutant zombies were killed until their blood flowed like a river. They fled in panic. Of course, Mo Shi would not let the remaining human-headed spiders and strong mutant zombies leave. With a move of his dragon mind, he killed all the human-headed spiders and strong mutant zombies. Qin Shi Huang saw that all the infected creatures were suddenly killed and was slightly stunned.
He turned his head and looked at Mo Shi from afar.
After a moment, he roared and ordered all the zombie soldiers to retreat.
Then, his body flashed and disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Mo Shi.
He sized up Mo Shi a few times, and a hint of puzzlement appeared on his face. I have killed you 9 times. Previously, when Mo Shi's clone entered Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum many times, he killed it instantly. But this time, the hundreds of thousands of infected creatures were instantly killed. He knew that it must be this person's work. Mo Shi nodded. Yes. Qin Shi Huang said again. Warrior, since you have saved the people of the Qin dynasty, your crime of entering the Qin palace can be written off. You should be the first meritorious deed. Then, he looked at the blood mist of the infected creatures and said, Today, the 4 seas are in turmoil and evil is rampant. Are you willing to follow me on an expedition to the east and to the west, purge the universe, pacify the world, and sweep through the lands? On the day of success, you will be bestowed land and given the title of king. Your name will be recorded in history. You will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Mo Shi could not help but smile. In the past, this Qin Shi Huang was called ambitious. In the present, he was called Chunibyu. He shook his head slightly and did not answer Qin Shi Huang directly. Instead, he pointed in the direction of the base. You plan to turn these humans into zombies like you?
Qin Shi Huang turned his head and looked in the direction of the base.
You also think that I am a tyrant?
Mo Shi said calmly.
It's not what I think. That's what the history books say. Burning books and burying Confucians, punishing chariots, not caring about the lives of the people and building the imperial mausoleum. Aren't all these done by you? A green-faced terracotta general at the side shouted angrily. How dare you? As he spoke, he pulled out his bronze sword. Qin Shi Huang waved his hand to stop the green-faced zombie terracotta. General Bai Qi, back down.
The green-faced zombie terracotta quickly replied, Yes.
As he spoke, he sheathed his bronze sword. Mo Shi was stunned. He looked carefully at the green-faced zombie general. He had a strong body and sharp eyebrows. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. This person was Bai Qi? The butcher Bai Qi who claimed to have killed millions of enemies? The Grim Reaper Bai Qi? If he did not remember wrongly, Bai Qi and Qin Shi Huang were not people from the same era. His history teacher once said that Qin Shi Huang was only born 2 years after Bai Qi's death. However, after thinking about it, he understood. Qin Shi Huang relied on the zombie virus to revive. Maybe they used some method to preserve Bai Qi's corpse. Qin Shi Huang might have used the zombie virus to revive Bai Qi. At this moment, Qin Shi Huang laughed coldly and looked at the sky. So, this is how the people of the future evaluated me. He then shook his head and did not dwell on this matter. Instead, he said, the demon Su Fu bewitched me. I ordered him to go overseas to search for the celestial medicine. He did not find the celestial medicine,
and said that the terracotta technique could allow me to live forever. He turned me and my 8,000 soldiers into something that is neither human nor ghost. Now, my great Qin is dying and there are many things waiting to be done. How can I let the people suffer like this? When Mo Shi heard this, he understood. Qin Shi Huang did not intend to kill these humans or infect them into zombies. His goal was to rule these humans. Thinking of this, Mo Shi dispelled the idea of killing Qin Shi Huang. Because after settling this matter, he planned to sign in at Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum. According to the historical records, there were countless mechanisms in Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum. It was too risky to go there rashly. If he had a good relationship with Qin Shi Huang now, wouldn't it be easy for him to sign in at Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum? Thinking of this, Mo Shi said to Qin Shi Huang, "It's good that you don't kill these people. It's not convenient today. I'll visit the Qin Palace another day. Goodbye." After he finished speaking, his figure moved and he disappeared. Only 100-meter-tall dragon shadow was left on the spot. Qin Shi Huang looked at the dragon shadow and pondered for a moment. Could this person be an ancient divine beast or a ferocious beast in human form? No wonder he wasn't afraid when he saw me. The green-faced zombie general beside him roared, "Your Majesty is the true dragon, the son of heaven. Even divine beasts or ferocious beasts should submit to your Majesty." Qin Shi Huang looked in the direction where Mo Shi disappeared. The gaze in his eyes gradually became sharp. All the land in the world belongs to the king. All the land is the king's subject. One day, he will also submit to me. A moment later, Mo Shi's dragon shadow slowly disappeared. Only then did Qin Shi Huang wave his hand at the Qin zombies and let out a half-human half-beast roar. "Return to the palace." Chapter 154. When Qin Shi Huang left with the 8,000 zombies, Qin Shi Huang was shocked. Below the walls of the base, the humans were prepared to fight to the death. But now they were all confused. How did the zombies fight with the zombies? Why did they leave? What's up with that giant dragon shadow? All right, I've seen this giant dragon shadow before. It should be a mysterious powerhouse. One of the hunters suddenly spoke. The other hunters also nodded. That's right, it's exactly the same as the giant dragon shadow. It's just much bigger than the previous one. They didn't know that what they saw before was only Mo Shi's clone. Mo Shi's clone only had the strength of a level 10 hunter. So when he used the dragon shadow step, he could only leave a 10-meter-tall shadow. At this time, Mo Shi was rushing to Xiaofan province while using the flesh of the infected creatures he killed along the way to create 10 clones. He was now a level 5 great hunter and a level 2 long Nian Shi. The strength of the clones he created had greatly increased. Each of them was a level 1 great hunter and a level 1 psychic. It could be said that even his clones could do whatever they wanted in Wuxia. Of course, the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang was an exception. After creating the 10 clones, Mo Shi sent them to various parts of Wuxia to hunt down the remaining zombies. The king of zombies was dead. As long as the remaining zombies were wiped out, the whole of Wuxia would be at peace. As for Mo Shi's main body, he was rushing to Xian province as fast as he could. He had 2 goals for this trip. The first was to solve the siege of Xian province's base C4. The second was to check in at Xian province's dragon ruins. Lil Dragon Shadow Step. 10 kilometers per second. In less than 5 minutes, he had already arrived at the periphery of Xian province's base C4. At this time, the 3 walls of base C4 had been breached. The hunter group was fighting with the 20,000-strong mutated zombies. The ordinary soldiers were trying their best to resist the attacks of the human-headed spiders. Although they all knew that today was definitely the end. Every soldier and hunter group member was fighting with all their might. Although the end was already decided, it was impossible for them to just sit and wait for death. Everyone roared like wild beasts and attacked the infected creatures. At this moment, everyone in the base was filled with despair. Today was the end of base C4. But at this moment, bang 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 bang, continuous muffled sounds came from the infected creatures' bodies. Then, the infected creatures exploded into a bloody mist. Whether it was the human-headed spiders or the strong mutant zombies, none of them were spared.
Even those super mutant zombies directly exploded into blood mist. After Mo Shi's draconic sense was upgraded to level 2, he could kill any super mutant creature below level 4 with just his draconic sense alone. In the base, the despairing humans were all stunned. What's going on? The infected creatures all exploded. The members of the hunting groups and the ordinary soldiers who were fighting thought that they would die today. He didn't expect these infected creatures to suddenly explode. While they were pleasantly surprised, they were also filled with doubt. What was going on? Could it be that the heavens had opened their eyes? Just as they were puzzled, a figure slowly walked out from the blood mist that filled the sky. At first, they could only see the silhouette of a person. Gradually, the silhouette became clearer. When the figure got closer, they finally saw the person clearly. He seemed to be in his 20s. There seemed to be no emotion in his cold eyes. It's him. He killed those infected creatures. So, he must be a psychokinesis user? Psychokinesis for sure. Otherwise, how could he do this? But even a level 10 psychokinesis user might not be able to do this, right? Amidst everyone's discussion, Mo Shi came to the front of the crowd and slowly stopped in his tracks. The leader of the base had also rushed over. He sized up Mo Shi, then nodded to Mo Shi. On behalf of more than 80,000 people in the base, thank you. Mo Shi just nodded slightly. He didn't expect these humans to be grateful. He just wanted the entire human civilization to continue. As for whether these people would be grateful to him or harm him by repaying his evil with good, he didn't care. Being grateful to him, he didn't expect to get any benefits from them. With the sign-in system, he didn't lack good things. He didn't care about the benefits they gave him. As for those who wanted to harm him with good for evil, he would just slap them to death. He looked at the leader of the base and moved his mind. A map appeared in his hand. When the surrounding people saw this, they exclaimed again. A map appeared out of thin air. What kind of method was this? Mo Shi handed the map to the leader of the base and slowly said, "Does anyone in your base recognize this place?" The leader took the map and looked at it. He didn't recognize it. The map was a little blurry, and the names of the mountains and rivers weren't clearly marked. He handed the map to the others next to him. After reading it, those people also shook their heads. Seeing a trace of disappointment in Mo Shi's eyes, the bureau chief hurriedly said, "But among the 80,000 people in our base, there are bound to be some who recognize it. If you don't mind, I'll pass this map down. There should be people who recognize it soon." The young man in front of them helped their base deal with hundreds of thousands of infected creatures. If they couldn't even help with such a small matter, it would be too unreasonable. Mo Shi wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, the system hadn't finished upgrading yet. He planned to go to the next dragon ruins to sign in after the system was upgraded. That night, Mo Shi stayed at base C4. The leader of the base ordered everyone not to disturb the young man if there was no reason. He was thinking that the young man's strength was so heaven-defying that it might have far surpassed level 10 psychokinesis. If their base could gain the young man's favor now and make him stay at base C4, then wouldn't base C4 no longer be afraid of infected creatures? That night, Mo Shi was arranged to stay in the best building in the base. At night, Mo Shi lay on the bed and checked his evolution points in his mind. He found that his evolution points had unknowingly exceeded 6 billion. The next upgrade wasn't far away. The next morning, Mo Shi woke up and walked out of his room. The sun was shining brightly, and the warm wind carried the fragrance of flowers. There was a peach tree in the courtyard where he lived, and the peach blossoms had already bloomed. Mo Shi couldn't help but be in a good mood. He sighed in his heart. Spring returns to the earth, and all things recover. It's time again. Forget it, it's not suitable for children. At the same time, the system in Mo Shi's mind showed that the upgrade had been completed in the early morning. Mo Shi was delighted. He shifted his attention to his mind. Upgrade complete. Upgrade reward, Blood Demon's Eye upgrade. Upgrade reward, Virtual Sentry Tower upgrade. Upgrade reward, Invincible Diamond Body. Mo Shi checked the rewards in his mind. Blood Demon's Eye upgraded to Blood Dragon's Eye. Blood Dragon's Eye. Can detect corpse energy. Can observe the target's race and level. Can see the target's essence through the target's appearance. Compared to Blood Demon's Eye,
Blood dragons. I had an additional function. See the target's essence through the target's appearance. If there was a zombie king hiding in a human's body, Mo Shi's blood dragons, I would be able to recognize it at a glance.
Chapter 155. The Eye of the Blood Demon had been upgraded to the Eye of the Blood Dragon. He could see the essence of the target through the surface. Mo Shi nodded slightly. This function was quite good. Then he looked at the upgraded Virtual Sentry Tower. Virtual Sentry Tower function. 1. Alert. Any danger within a radius of 100 kilometers will be alerted. 2. Interference. The Virtual Sentry Tower can release interference waves to interfere with the enemy's vision. Mo Shi nodded slightly when he saw this. This function was very powerful. In the future, if an enemy appeared within 100 kilometers, he would be able to predict it in advance. The only pity was that it couldn't detect the danger of the form of psychic power. For example, he couldn't detect the Plague Dragon's dragon will before. But it wasn't a big problem. Other psychic powers were far inferior to his dragon will. Only other draconic wills could be stronger than his draconic will. But his dragon will could perfectly restrain other dragon will. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about any other attacks on his dragon will. As for the invincible Vajra body, it was just icing on the cake. With the Blood Dragon armor and the Titan Dragon breastplate, he already had 2 layers of defense that no attack on Earth could break through. Now, with the invincible Vajra body, his defense could be said to be invincible. The previous king of zombies was afraid of Qin Nu, but Mo Shi had 3 layers of strong defense. The creatures on Earth that could kill him probably hadn't been born yet. Hoo! Mo Shi took a few deep breaths. There was a relaxed smile on his face. Now, in the entire Wuxia, with his strength that could crush a level 10 mutated zombie, coupled with his invincible defense, he could finally be unstoppable in the true sense. Then, a system notification sounded in his mind. Frowny face. Content of this upgrade. Sign in reward plus 1000 times mechanism. Just like the previous upgrade, there was only one. But just this one was already very heaven-defying. Originally, after Mo Shi reached level 5, it would take at least half a year before he could level up again. But now that there was a reward of 1000 times, he would be able to level up again after signing in for 4 or 5 days at most. Mo Shi had a question in his heart. System, with the upgrade of the system, can you increase the reward infinitely? The system replied. Frowny face. No, at most, it can be increased to 10,000 times. Mo Shi saw that the system had responded to him, so he hurriedly asked, what about after 10,000 times? Wouldn't his leveling speed slow down again? 1 level in half a year, and then 1 level in 3 to 5 years? Of course, when Mo Shi said it was slow, it was relative to before. If other people knew that he thought it was too slow to level up once in half a year, and that he thought it was too slow to level up once in 3 to 5 years, they would probably want to kill him. It took many years for the others to level up after they became hunters. You're already a great hunter. You'll be able to level up in 3 to 5 years. And you think that's too slow? The system replied, if you want to evolve into a Titan Dragon, you must first stabilize your foundation. And the stability of the foundation requires a long-term process. Mo Shi was a little speechless. Does that mean we can only slowly improve in the future? The system replied, of course, we can't rule out the possibility of some special opportunities that allow the host to level up quickly without affecting the stability of his foundation. Hearing this, Mo Shi asked, can you be more specific? However, the system did not reply. However, Mo Shi finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was good to have hope. At this time, the base chief had already ordered breakfast to be served. 1 fried egg with leeks, 1 fried potato, 5 pancakes, and a bowl of pumpkin millet porridge. In his previous life, this was a common meal. However, in the current apocalypse, especially in base C4, which had just been attacked by a large number of infected creatures, this was considered the most sumptuous breakfast. In the entire base C4, only Mo Shi could eat breakfast like this. Even the base chief was just a dish, a bowl of porridge. Mo Shi had not eaten such a common meal for a long time. He swept all the dishes clean like a whirlwind. As soon as he finished eating, the base chief brought in an old man. This was an old man who was over 70 years old. The base chief introduced him to Mo Shi. Before the apocalypse, Uncle Chi specialized in mapping in Xian province. He was very familiar with the terrain of Xian province. He could tell what the mountains and rivers were at a glance. Mo sure nodded at Uncle Chi as a form of greeting. Of course, Uncle Chi was very grateful to Mo sure. Yesterday, when the infected creatures attacked, it was not a big deal for him to die. However, his grandson was just born 2 days ago. How could he bear to see a 2-day-old child be destroyed along with the base? It was all thanks to this Mr. Mo who saved the base and their family. He took out Mo sure's map and a neatly folded piece of white paper. He opened the white paper and saw a hand-drawn map. The terrain on the map was almost the same as Mo sure's map. However, it was more detailed than the ancient map that Mo sure had. Not only were the names of the mountains and rivers marked, but the length of the rivers and the height of the mountains were also clearly marked. The base chief said, "Mr. Mo, you saved the entire base yesterday. Uncle Chi is grateful to you, so he hand-drew this map overnight." Mo sure nodded at Uncle Chi to express his gratitude. Then, he carefully looked at the new hand-drawn map. According to this new map, he could clearly see that the location of the dragon ruins was called Lake Kanas. This reminded Mo sure of the legend of the Lake Kanas monster that he had read in his previous life. It was said that huge monsters often appeared in Lake Kanas and dragged the horses on the shore into the lake. There were even a few people who took photos of the huge shadow of the monster under the lake. Now, the location of the dragon ruins on the map was directly marked on Lake Kanas. Mo sure thought to himself that the dragon ruins should be in Lake Kanas. Uncle Chi said to Mo sure again, "If you want to go to Lake Kanas, I suggest that you go in 2 months. It starts snowing there in August every year and lasts until May of the next year. The snow hasn't melted yet." Mo sure nodded to show that he understood. However, with his strength, this bit of snow was nothing. He stayed at base C4 for 4 days. At 11 o'clock at night on the 4th day, he signed in 1,000 drops of enhancer. After taking it, he broke through to level 6. Name, Mo sure. Level 6 Great Hunter, Level 2 Long Yen Sure. Evolution Path. Titan Dragon. Mo sure looked at the attribute interface in his mind and was secretly happy. The reason why he stayed at base C4 for these few days was to wait for his level to increase. Since his level had increased, he planned to leave base C4 the next morning after breakfast. The base chief and the leader of the hunting group had originally come to talk to Mo sure about something. But when they saw that Mo sure was about to leave, they couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. "Mr. Mo, are you leaving now?" Mo sure knew what they were thinking and said, Don't worry. No infected creatures will attack base C4 in the future." After saying that, he didn't say another word. He turned around and walked out of the base. Chapter 156. The chief of base C4 and the leader of the hunters looked at Mo sure's back as he left. They pondered over Mo sure's words. After a while, the leader of the hunters asked in surprise. "Mr. Mo said that there will be no more infected creatures attacking the base. What does that mean?" Of course, he knew the literal meaning of that sentence. But there was one point that he could not understand. The fact that the infected creatures would not attack the base meant that they were either afraid of Mr. Mo, or they were all wiped out by Mr. Mo. In their opinion, the possibility of them being afraid of him was very small. The infected creatures were all bloodthirsty and cruel. What was there to be afraid of? Did that mean that they were all wiped out by Mr. Mo? How many infected creatures were there in the vicinity of base C4, and they were all wiped out by Mr. Mo just like that? The chief of the base pondered for a moment, and his eyes lit up as he turned to the leader of the hunters. Leader Korban immediately organized the hunters and psychokinesis to scout out the situation within 50 kilometers of the base. Korban nodded. "Yes, chief." In the afternoon, Korban came to report to the chief. "We have scouted 50 kilometers of the base and did not find any traces of infected creatures. We plan to scout further tomorrow." The chief was delighted. "Sure, but be careful when you scout." The 3rd day, the 4th day, they scouted further and further. In the end, they found that there were no infected creatures within 300 kilometers of the base. When the news reached the base, the entire base was in an uproar. It had been 30 years since Virus X swept across the world. In these 30 years, the area around the base was a death zone. Other than the powerful hunters and psychokinesis who could occasionally go out, no one else had left the base. People under the age of 30 had never set foot on the land outside the base. Although they sometimes dreamed of the day when the infected creatures would be wiped out, and human civilization could be restored. But it was just a dream. The world situation was getting worse, and the infected creatures were getting stronger at a faster rate. Whether they could live until tomorrow was a question. How could they set foot on the land outside? But now that Mr. Mo had appeared, all the infected creatures within 300 kilometers of the base had been wiped out. And this was only the area they scouted. Perhaps the infected creatures outside their range had also been wiped out. This made them see the hope of human civilization being restored for the first time. She really didn't know how Mr. Mo did it. At the same time, everyone was filled with respect for Mr. Mo. Mr. Mo's strength was actually so powerful. This was completely beyond their understanding. After Mo Sure left base C4, he headed towards Lake Kaunas. With his speed, it would take him less than a minute to cover a distance of 400 kilometers. At this time, he had already arrived at the top of the mountain beside Lake Kaunas. It was snowing heavily. However, the blood that fell to the ground was not white. Instead, it was red. It was as red as blood. Looking down from here, the entire Kaunas Lake was about 20 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. It was shaped like a giant worm. However, Mo Sure could not see the surface of the lake at all. This was because the entire surface of Lake Kaunas was covered by giant sarcomas with a diameter of more than 5 meters. The surface of the tumor was covered with thick black blood vessels. Every sarcoma was like a human heart, beating rhythmically. This made Lake Kaunas look like a giant blood-red worm. Around the lake, Sanguisurincus radiated in all directions. All the nearby mountains were covered with blood-red vines. Even the knowledgeable Mo Sure could not help but frown slightly when he saw this scene. The entire Lake Kaunas, which was more than 20 square kilometers, had become a mother nest. This was the largest mother nest he had ever seen. One could imagine how strong the creatures in this mother nest were. His black pupils gradually turned blood red. The blood dragon's eye was activated. He looked at the mother nest. In the past, the blood demon's eye could not see inside the mother nest. However, after the upgrade, the blood dragon's eye could see through the surface and see the essence. It could easily see through the sarcomas on the mother nest and see the situation inside the mother nest. He saw that Lake Kaunas was inside the mother nest. However, the water of Lake Kaunas was no longer blue or dark green. It was blood red. The blood pool that he had seen in other mother nests in the past had expanded into a blood lake here. A huge blood lake of more than 20 square kilometers. Just one look was enough to make one's hair stand on end. However, in the blood pool, there was no sign of the infected creature. He directly opened the mother nest's consciousness. He connected to the huge mother nest's consciousness. From the mother nest's consciousness, he saw the huge creature in the mother nest. It was a huge creature that was more than 300 meters long and had a thin and long body. Species, mutant Mosasaurus. Level 2 supermutant. Mo Sure knew that the Mosasaurus did exist during the dinosaur era. It was a large predator in the sea. However, it was said to be extinct in the past. Now it seemed that not only was it not extinct, but it had always existed. The so-called Kaunas water monster was actually this Mosasaurus. In the past, when Mo Sure connected to the mother nest's consciousness to search for super mutant creatures, he did not find this mutant Mosasaurus. It seemed that it had only become a level 2 super mutant beast recently. It seemed that the larger the blood pool in the mother nest, the faster the strength of the infected creature would increase. Unfortunately, no matter how fast it increased, it would not be as fast as Mo Sure's strength. His dragon thought moved. Bang! All the huge sarcomas on the surface of the lake that was more than 20 square kilometers exploded at the same time. Imagine, thousands of huge sarcomas exploding at the same time. How spectacular would that scene be? In the blood-red snowflakes that filled the sky, the sarcomas burst into blood-red waves that filled the sky. It was like 10,000 horses galloping and 10,000 corpses roaring. The momentum was terrifying. Then, the blood-red waves that filled the sky fell into the blood lake below. The surface of the lake that was more than 20 square kilometers rose by more than half a meter. At the same time, Thousands of blood-red tentacles quickly crawled out of the blood lake. These blood-red tentacles crawled to the side of the lake and directly stood up out of thin air. They formed something that looked like blood vessels. Then, on these blood vessels, sarcomas began to grow again. The blood lake was actually rebuilding the mother nest on its own. The speed of rebuilding was extremely fast. At this speed, it would probably take less than 10 minutes for the entire huge mother nest to be completely repaired. At the same time, the ground under Mo Shi's feet suddenly shook. His feet tapped lightly. His whole body bounced up into the air. The moment he bounced up, the mountain peak he was standing on just now collapsed with a loud bang. Huge mountain rocks were scattered in all directions. They smashed into the trees at the foot of the mountain, causing them to snap continuously. Huge rocks rolled down the mountain, causing red snow to fill the sky. From the crack of the mountain peak, a huge sanguisurincus with a diameter of more than 50 meters jumped out. Then, on this huge sanguisurincus, thousands of sanguisurincus with a diameter of more than a meter grew out. It looked like the blood-red roots of a huge tree had extended out of the ground and were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws in the air. It was like a huge blood tree monster that attacked Mo Shi. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.